welcome to Just a Minute. Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners in this country and around the world. But to welcome to the programme this week 4 exciting, talented, humorous players who are going to display their verbal ingenuity and dexterity as they try and speak on the subject that I give them, and they try and do that without hesitation, repetition or deviation. And those 4 clever sparks are, seated on my right, Tony Hawks and Pam Ayres, and seated on my left, Sue Perkins and Tim Rice. Will you please welcome all 4 of them? Seated beside me is Sarah Sharp, who's going to help me keep the score and blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the Radio Theatre in the centre of Broadcasting House, quite near the centre, the West One area of London. I'm now talking to people who live outside the metropolitan area, just so that they can get their geographical locations right. Oh, now, there's a perfect subject. Sue, we'd love you to begin the show. And what a subject after what I've just said. Twittering. Will you tell us something about twittering in this game starting now?
Do you like sitting at home in your pants doing nothing? In which case, twittering may be for you. The online Twitter website means that people who otherwise have no social skills get to blast to remote disciples the non-events that have been punctuating the last 24 hours. I've just made a cup of tea! They blare down the internet.
Tony Challenge.
Is that a repetition of internet in there?
No.
That man thinks not.
She hadn't mentioned the internet before. No. I think she assumed everybody knew it was the internet.
No, okay.
So, Tony, that's an incorrect challenge. She's still got twittering, and you have 40 seconds still, Sue, starting now.
Nicholas twitters, but he does so eloquently, and he wears a cravat, and who can possibly...
Tony Challenge.
I think it's a repetition of twitters.
Oh, yes. Yeah. The subject is twittering, and you use the word twitters a second time. Well, listen. Tony, there are 36 seconds available. You tell us something about twittering starting now.
There's nothing I like more on a summer evening than to go into the garden and listen to the birds twittering away. How wonderful it is.
Pam challenged.
Well, it sounds a bit slow and hesitant. It hasn't got much zest.
No. I think he was surely coming to a halt, almost.
I think so.
In fact, it was so slow, I think we could interpret it as hesitation.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
It was sort of rohypnol meets ornithology, that anecdote.
I accept that I wasn't at my best.
You weren't at your normal pace, Tony, which is the thing. 26 seconds for you, Pam, to tell us something about twittering starting now.
My mother had a green budgerigar called Joey, which twittered reliably, and my maternal parent...
Right, Sue, you challenge.
There was a hesitation on maternal.
Yes.
How dare you?
I know.
Trying to think of another word for it. 17 seconds is back with you, Sue. Twittering starting now.
Twittering is an essential part of human discourse. It means you've got little to say, but who cares?
Tim, challenge.
I think it's a repetition of little.
Yes, you talked about little before when you were talking about the people who go on...
You were being disparaging about most people, I think.
So, Tim, we're going to hear from everybody on this subject, which is good, and you have 12 seconds. You tell us something about twittering starting now.
I gather twittering is some newfangled thing that people do on the internet, but it is something that I would really...
Right, Pam?
It's a repetition of something.
Yeah, there were 2 somethings there, Tim. And, Pam, you've got him with 6 seconds to go on twittering starting now.
Round the bottom of the budgie cave was...
What? Sue, you challenge.
Now, I was going to say repetition of budgie, but you know what she said?
Budgerigar.
I know, Pam. Don't take out the sabre again.
I certainly did.
Not my eyes, Pam.
She said budgerigar the first time and budgie this time. So, Pam, another incorrect challenge, so you get a point.
It'll be a cockatoo next time.
So another incorrect challenge, another point to you. 4 seconds available, twittering starting now.
Was a colourful shower hat-like device to catch...
And this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point, and this occasion it was Pam Ayres, and you won't be surprised to hear, if you haven't already worked it out, that she's in a strong lead at the end of the first round. Tim Rice, will you take the second round? And the subject I've got here is what I keep in my fridge. Tell us something about that intimate subject. 60 seconds starting now.
I like to deal with this topic in several stages. First, I would tackle the important top shelf. This is usually extremely parky, and I only put things in there which I wish to be cold. Things like aardvarks or...
Tony Challenge.
Was there a repetition of things?
There was a repetition of things, yes. I only put things in there, things like. Yes. Tony, you have 45 seconds. You tell us something about what I keep in my fridge, starting now.
I'm delighted that I've won this subject, partly because I keep more interesting things in the fridge than a lot of people, having travelled for a long time in Ireland with one.
Sue challenged.
Did Tony say freezer?
Yes, he did.
And it's things we keep in the fridge, so it's deviation.
Absolutely.
I don't know. I'm confused. Where's the freezer come in?
Tony mentioned freezer.
No, he didn't. He said fridge.
He did. No, he did, Nicholas, honestly. I picked it up as well. He did say freezer because I thought, ping, that's wrong.
If you got ping, that was a microwave.
Everybody has a freezer in their... Everybody has a freezer in their fridge. Not everybody, but most people do.
No, I'm with Nicholas on this, I have to say.
I don't think within the rules of just a minute you were actually deviating from the subject of what I keep in my fridge. You might have a freezing department, most people do. And you carry on, Tony. What I keep in my fridge, 37 seconds, starting now.
What do you keep in your fridge? And I said shoes, and the man couldn't believe it. And I opened up the door, and there they were, 2 leather things. He said, champagne, everyone.
Tim challenged.
Said. We had a couple of says.
Yes, the man said, yes, you said, right. Tim, listened well, 26 seconds. What I keep in my fridge, starting now.
As soon as I open my fridge door and the light comes on, I sing a few selections from Carousel and Oklahoma, and then gaze at the bottom shelf. There...
Sue challenge.
Repetition of shelf.
Yes, because you talked about the top shelf before.
Well, that's a long time ago.
Come on, it's not a long time since you looked at the top shelf.
So,
Thank you,
Sue, correct challenge. You have 17 seconds. Tell us about what I keep in my fridge, starting now.
I keep a collection of aardvarks in my fridge who are running from Tim Rice for their lives. They know that if they burrow...
Tony, you challenged.
There is no fridge big enough for a collection of aardvark. One aardvark, yes, but a collection of aardvarks.
Now,
I can't accept
no one
that.
disputes that your fridge has a freezer. My fridge is like a walk-in cavern. In fact, it is a cavern or an underground lair that I've just put a door
see
on.
what Mr. Nicholas Parsons thinks.
He'll say I'm wrong, because he always...
It's very easy. I gave you the benefit of the doubt.
I don't like the way this is going.
And we have to assume in the terms of the surreal, which often occur in just a minute, that Sue has got a fridge which is as cavernous as the BBC, and she keeps a whole load of aardvarks. So you have the benefit of the doubt on this one. So it's balance, it's justice. This is what I try to dispense. Sue is with you still, 11 seconds. What I keep in my fridge, starting now.
I'm not very organised with my cold produce, but I will say this. There are 40,000 jars of indiscriminate brown sludge, some of which claim to be mayonnaise. I don't know. Sell-by date for some time...
Sue Perkins was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that all-important extra point. She's now in the lead, 1 ahead of Pam Ayres and then 2 ahead of Tony Hawks and Tim Rice. Tony, we'd like you to begin the next round. The subject is the Ark. Will you tell us something about the Ark in just a minute, starting now?
I'm very impressed by Noah, who got a bit of a nod from God to pop out and collect up a lot of animals and put them into an ark, 2 by another couple. And he did this tremendously well, gathering them around the place, never questioning the logic of it, really, because it wasn't going to do that much good in the end. But he, nevertheless, was a determined figure, as I am. I'm not going to give up at 32 seconds. I'm cracking on like that man I spoke of earlier would have done on his ark, which was made of wood. Not balsa, like a lot of people believe, but a sturdy other kind.
Oh, yes. Where's Sue?
Hesitation.
Yeah.
I certainly don't want to carry on, that's for sure.
That was also obvious as well. So, Sue, you got him with the correct challenge. 18 seconds, the arc starting now.
Noah was the first conservationist, but the only animals that should never have been allowed into the Ark were humans, bearing in mind that ultimately it was a couple of those and then a few more that would ensure the destruction of the planet. How beautiful it must have been as the last pair of aardvarks entered, with Tim Rice pursuing them, knife and fork in hand.
So Sue Perkins was again speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point, has increased her lead at the end of that round ahead of the others. Tim, it's your turn to begin. And the subject now is the best advice my father ever gave me. Will you tell us something about that, if you can, in this game, starting now?
When I was very young, my father took me to one side and left me there, but I followed him very closely to listen to what he had to say, and I've never forgotten those wonderful words. When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high, and don't be afraid of the dark. He sang it to me. He spoke it on other occasions.
Sue Chan.
Hesitation.
There was a hesitation.
No, it's dramatic effect, but never mind. Call it hesitation.
It was dramatic effect, and very dramatic. The trouble is, in just a minute, when you're trying to speak, you have to sacrifice all that to keep the fluency of your language going. So, Sue, correct challenge for you, 42 seconds. The best advice my father ever gave me, Sue, starting now.
The best advice my dad ever gave me was don't go outside in daylight without a bag on your head, otherwise there'll be repercussions. It's something I've adhered to throughout my 39 years.
Tim Challenge.
It's just so sad. I would rather you kept that to yourself. I mean, this is distressing.
Sometimes radio can be cathartic, Tim.
Okay.
So, Tim, have you a challenge within the rules?
Well, it was a kind of, I just felt she was telling us
You can use sadness, you can use joy, you can use passion,
yes.
You can use flamboyance, you can use anything you like in just a minute.
But hey, let's use dance and now.
As long as you keep going and don't hesitate, deviate, or repeat yourself. Right, 33 seconds to another point to you and the subject. Best advice my father ever gave me, starting now.
My father is a marvellous gentleman, and in all sincerity, the only piece of advice he's ever given me is don't do what I did.
Tony Challenge.
Well, if that was in all sincerity, I have to question what she said before, which I believe to be in all sincerity, and I feel cheated, Nicholas.
Why?
Because I didn't buzz for deviation before, believing that to be the case.
In all sincerity, he
Now.
said don't do what I did, and what he did was he did go out in daylight without a bag on his head.
Whatever we say, Nicholas, we've heard enough about this family, frankly, haven't
What you're saying is that your challenge is, she said the best advice her father ever gave me,
Yeah.
and now it's a different piece of advice.
Yes, exactly,
So it
Nicholas.
can't be the best advice twice.
Exactly.
So, right, OK, Tony, you have the benefit of the doubt. So the best advice my father ever gave me, Tony, 27 seconds, starting now.
The best advice my father gave me was to be incredibly picky all the time. On shows like this, it's a huge advantage, let me tell you. Because people aren't really doing much wrong, and we sit here and study every single word they say and pick away at them. And I'm working on that advice my father gave me all those years ago as he popped me on his knee, as he was wont to do. Tony, he would...
I love the idea of your father putting you on his knee and then giving you advice about how to do just a minute.
Yeah, I was 32 at the time.
Anyway, Tony, you were speaking as a whistle when, gave an extra point, and you've now moved forward, but you're still in second place, but you are ahead of Tim Rice and Pam Ayres. Sue's still in the lead, and who's going to speak next? Pam, it's back to you to start. Oh, the subject, lovely one for you, Mother Nature. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
It is easy to imagine Mother Nature as a benevolent figure, her fat arms laden with fruits, vegetables, flowers, nuts, seeds, straddling, as she does, the silver fish-filled rivers beside green pastures, whereupon the cattle graze and multiply. Who did that?
Who did that? Tony.
That is not easy to imagine.
Tony, we enjoyed your interruptions. I'm going to give you a bonus point for what you said, but I'm going to leave it with Pam because I think the picture she was painting, it was very easy to imagine it all. I had this wonderful picture of Mother Nature.
Fat-armed Mother Nature.
And a beast woman straddling a river.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I've always imagined a very lithe Mother Nature.
She was live. She had so many attributes.
Fat-armed?
No, and the audience were loving it.
Popeye Mother Nature.
So, Tony, you got a point for your interruption. Pam gets a point because she was interrupted. 39 seconds, Pam. Mother Nature, starting now.
But do not be deceived. Nature, red in tooth and claw, look beyond the amiable countenance to the venom-filled fang of the snake, the bloody jaw of the wolf, and the ink of the squid.
Tony, you've challenged again.
Security.
Oh, you're wicked, Tony. But you've given Pam a breather. But you get a point because the audience enjoyed the interruption.
He's interrupted the flow of the Silver River now.
Yes.
He has.
I know, darling, but you got a chance to gather your breath and your wits again. Because
I haven't got much more to say, actually.
I want to find out what happens after the blooded fang of the snake.
Yeah, but Tony, because we enjoyed your interruption, get a bonus point for that. I think you deserve that. But, Pam, you were interrupted, so you get a point for that, and you have 22 seconds to take up the subject of Mother Nature. Go off in a different direction now, darling. We just can't wait for it. Starting now.
The survival of the fittest, the predation of the weak by the strong, the abandonment of the runt.
Tim, you've jumped.
Well, tragically, there was a hesitation there.
No, there wasn't. It was the same pace she's done the whole of the other thing.
It was a repetition of
No, and the audience agree entirely with me, don't they?
Make it go all the way.
They're enjoying this sort of interrupted monologue from Pam. So, Pam, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt
She's done
again.
about 4 minutes. Does feel like she's done 4 minutes already.
And see if you can gird your loins and take the subject again in another direction with 12 seconds to go, starting now.
The abandoned... No, I said that.
Yeah, you did say abandonment before. Tony, you challenge first.
Yes, repetition of abandonment. Yeah.
10 seconds, Tony. You wanted Mother Nature and you've got it. 10 seconds, starting now.
It's easy to imagine the thin-armed Mother Nature as she walks through the forest, admiring her work, saying, I did that. Bloody good, isn't it?
You know, I've got to make an observation about this show because you have these subjects, they're sort of very haphazard, and sometimes one subject takes off and becomes a classic. I thought that was a wonderful round.
You're very kind.
Tony was then speaking to the whistle when gained an extra point. He's now taking the lead, actually. And Sue, we'd like you to begin the next round. The subject is all fingers and thumbs. Can you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
People who have all fingers and thumbs make great organists but rubbish football players. It's used to describe people who are clumsy.
Pam, challenge.
A repetition of people.
Yes, there's too many people there, my love.
Yeah.
Right. So, Pam, you have a correct challenge. You've got 52 seconds. Tell us something about all fingers and thumbs, starting now.
A person who is all fingers and thumbs would be inept at tapestry, embroidery, Berlin work, drawn thread, and kind of things like that. She's struggling.
Challenge.
There was a sort of winding down, I think, a hesitancy there.
Slight winding down, but not hesitation within the rules of just a minute. So she has the benefit of the doubt. I gave it to you last time. It's when they advance towards you, you begin to...
Who'd have thought they could have got the pitchforks through security?
But that low growl from the audience is a bit strange and sinister. No, I give benefits of the doubt. I gave it to Sue before. She won on something else. This time, Pam Pam has the benefit of the doubt, and she wasn't. Hesitation. 39 seconds with you, Pam, still on all fingers and thumbs, starting now.
And would be more suitable for murdering people or...
Tim, challenge.
Repetition of people.
Tim, you have a correct challenge. 35 seconds, all fingers and thumbs, starting now.
All fingers and thumbs is a strange medical complaint. If indeed a person was all fingers and thumbs and didn't have, for example, a liver, kidney, brain, back, front, knee, ankle, toes.
Sue, challenge.
Hesitation.
Yes, at last. Right, you're in on it. You wanted this subject, I think. All fingers and thumbs, Sue. 20 seconds, starting now.
Pam, of course, is right. People who are all fingers and thumbs make great murderers if you're going to point someone to death. That is the best way I've found, just to run at someone with an index finger raised in a stabbing motion. Frightening it can be. They may have a heart attack. I don't know. I'm going to go and try it later, because Pam of Ayres has said... I said Pam.
Tim, challenge.
A brace of Pams.
Yes.
I can't get enough of them.
Exactly. A lovely thought.
Right. But you've got in, Tim, with 3 seconds to go on all fingers and thumbs, starting now.
The clumsiest person I ever knew was all...
Who was speaking then as the whistle went? It was Tim Rice, so he's got that extra point. We're moving into the final round. And, Tim, I think it's your turn to begin. Dick Whittington. 60 seconds, starting now.
Richard Whittington was thrice Mayor of London. It's all too easy to make cheap jokes about Dick Whittington and his cat, so I will. Dick, go...
Sue, challenge.
Hesitation?
No, I don't think so. No, Tim, you've still got the subject. Dick Whittington, 51 seconds, starting now.
The real Dick Whittington was, in fact, a very successful 14th century trader and merchant. And in the reigns of Richard II, Henry IV, Part 1...
Tony, challenge.
Repetition of Richard.
What?
Richard.
You started the whole thing with Richard Whittington.
You did it good.
Oh, he's good.
That was a different Dick, though, Tony.
43 seconds, Tony. 43 seconds on Dick Whittington with you, Tony, starting now.
I can remember when I was 6 years old. My father popped me on his lap in the theatre and we watched the pantomime. Dick Whittington came on the stage. Why is he wearing tights? I said. That's no way for a man to behave. But Papa, he gave me a short talk on the history of theatre, how it had developed, and the various little methods of...
Tim, challenge.
Yeah, this is, apart from being extremely boring, isn't really about Dick Whittington. It's about the history of the theatre.
And his father permanently wanting Tony on his name. How much advice can you get from a man?
Yes, he was giving a talk about the history of the theatre, and
he was
really
deviating.
wanted to talk about Dick Whittington.
Yes.
Could you not afford 2 seats? Was that the deal?
I was in the theatre watching Dick Whittington
On his
whilst
lap.
this speech from my father was going on. I think the theme of Dick Whittington is still with us. What do you think, Nick?
I think you're quite right, actually. But I was trying to keep it even so that we both finish up with people. So, Dick Whittington, Tony, we're with you. 22 seconds, starting now.
I think the current Mayor of London would like to be re-elected 3 times, but I don't see it happening. Does?
Tim, challenge.
Well, again, I mean, it's nothing to do with Dick Whittington, but Dick Whittington, the one that Tony's referring to, was only re-elected twice. He was elected once and then re-elected twice. So there's no logical comparison between the current mayor, were he to... well, you know what I mean.
I don't know what you mean, but I'll tell you what I'm going to
Give me a
do,
point, then.
because it's the end of the show, and there are 15 seconds
Nicholas
to
has
go.
given up.
And I gave it against you last time, though you had a certain logic in your challenge.
Yes.
And you have a certain logic, only a certain logic in your challenge now. Tony had the benefit of the doubt last time. You have the benefit of the doubt this time. You have 15 seconds. You tell us something more about Dick Whittington starting... Yes, you starting... Now,
Richard
right.
Whittington was born in Gloucester.
Sue's challenge.
Repetition of Richard.
God, hoist it on your own petard, right. Sue, you have a correct challenge. Dick Whittington's with you 13 seconds ago, starting now.
He believed the streets to be paved with gold. We know now that those said avenues are just covered in dog excrement and endless free newspapers.
Tony, challenge.
Was there a repetition of covered? He believed them to be covered in
gold
gold,
and covered in
now
dog excrement,
they're
yes.
covered in excrement.
Hey.
Oh, he said no, paved, and then
Paved with gold and covered.
Even though you see how fair I am.
Incorrect challenge. Sue, another point to you. Dick Whittington, 6 seconds to go, starting now.
He had a knapsack, possibly with sandwiches in, wrapped in a kerchief, which is the thing...
Pam challenge.
A repetition of in.
In?
Oh, that's terse, Pam! Oh!
I'm a desperate woman.
I never thought I'd have Pam Ayres look at me so keenly and say, I'm a desperate woman.
I am.
Well, you know what I'm going to do now? Because if I give it to Pam...
Oh,
for
dear.
that 1 second to go, there's only 1 second to go, by the way, it means that we have a joint winner, which I always think is much fairer than having an individual winner.
It's like the Matrix, isn't it, when they peel back reality and you see the nuts and bolts workings of the thing. You carve it up how you want, Nicholas. I absolve myself. Have you not filled in your BBC Safeguarding Trust modules?
I'm going to put it to the audience. Would you like Pam to have this last second? Yes! I'm afraid you are the final arbiters. Pam, there's 1 second to go on Dick Whittington, starting now. Tim, you challenge.
Hesitation.
No, rubbish. Pam, you've got another point, and you've got half a second on Dick Whittington, starting now.
Richard Whittington.
Well, I'll give you the final score now. So Tim Rice and Pam Ayres equal in second place, but out in the lead with a massive 18 points each were Tony Hawks and Sue Perkins, our joint winners. So it only remains for me to say thank you to these four fine and humorous players of this game, I think. Sarah Sharp, who's helped me with the score and blown her whistle so elegantly. We are grateful to our producer, Claire Jones. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we're grateful to this lovely audience here in the Radio Theatre. From our audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, thank you. And to our listeners also for tuning in. Be with us next time we play Just a Minute. But before we say farewell, I thought we should do one little tiny thing because... as you all probably know, one of our regular players, Clement Freud, has left us. And we thought you might like to be reminded, as a sort of final little tie-up to this show, of a clip of Clement Freud speaking on Just a Minute. Right, Clement, a correct challenge. 21 seconds. How I hope my epitaph will read, starting now.
I think just my name, the date of my death, and best before.
Well, it deserved the applause, and I think you rested on your laurels with that one. One of the best in Just a Minute. And Clement Freud was, on occasions, the best in Just a Minute. We will miss him very much. Thank you. Let's give him a final round of applause for all the years he was in the show and his major contributions. Clement Freud. Welcome to Just a Minute. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners in this country and around the world, but also to welcome to the programme this week four delightful, talented and humorous individuals who are going to play this amazing game. And they are, seated on my right, Paul Merton and Kit Hesketh-Harvey, and seated on my left, Gyles Brandreth and Shappi Khorsandi. Would you please welcome all four of them? And as usual, I'm going to ask them to speak on the subject that I will give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. Beside me sits Sarah Sharp. She's going to help me with the score. She'll blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And let's begin the show with Paul Merton. Paul, a subject here we'd love to hear about, my hidden talent. 60 seconds starting now.
I'm a born mimic. This is Alec Guinness in the film Kind Hearts to Coronets. My dear sir, the view from the west window has all the exuberance of Chaucer, with none of the concomitant crudities of the period.
Oh, Giles, this challenge.
This isn't a hidden talent, it's an explicit and brilliant talent, which we're all enjoying. Deviation, the man is a genius at mimicry.
Can I just just point out to the listeners at home that was also me just then.
Well, that deserves a bonus point, that last remark of yours, Paul. What is your challenge?
That it was deviation from what's on the card, which is my hidden talent. He was showing us one of his obvious talents.
That's a clever challenge, isn't it, Giles? So we give you a point for a correct challenge, of course. You take over the subject, and there are 47 seconds available. My hidden talent starting now.
I had a French mistress at school. It was unusual for a boy of 14 to keep a woman, let alone a foreigner. But my hidden talent is as a Lothario. As a lover, I am beyond compare. Subtle, supple, beautiful in all that I do. The delicacy of my lovemaking is something that is unknown.
Paul, challenge.
I just panicked. I thought, he must be stopped. This is not a hidden talent. He's got illegitimate children all over London.
But on the same basis that he had you on the thing that you didn't hide your talent, you expressed it,
Yeah,
I gave that decision to him. I can give it to you now and say he didn't hide his talent.
No, he didn't.
Expressed it all, didn't he?
Exactly. Yeah.
But we're on the horns of a dilemma here. As soon as you reveal anything...
May I just say, at that point, while Gyles was speaking, I was very conscious of the fact that I was the only woman on the panel that's playing the game, and it was very difficult for me to resist buzzing to say, liar.
No!
I resisted.
Can I say, you can't resist buzzing when you're with me?
Oh, my Lord, I used to have your book when I was a kid.
Oh, yes, indeed. I'm sure your analyst has been through it with you.
Don't worry, Shappi.
we-
Nicholas has been on the game for years and years and years.
I know. Shappi, we're going to give you a bonus point because we enjoyed what you just said. Paul, you got a point because it was an incorrect challenge, and you take over the subject, and it's my hidden talent, and there are 29 seconds starting now.
My hidden talent is mime. Have a look at this. What happened there?
Giles, you challenged.
Hesitation, this is a word game, not television.
I've been misinformed. I had my hair washed for this. Well, I thought it was a hidden talent because it's mime on radio, so therefore it's hidden, so I would have thought that would have been all right.
Paul's the only one who's
This is going to be the clever edition
Yeah,
of
it's
Just
getting
a
very
Minute.
metaphysical.
So, Paul, right, we'll give you a bonus point for what you just said. Giles, you had a correct challenge. 25 seconds, my hidden talent, starting now.
The Swiss kiss is a French one through which you yodel.
Paul, challenge.
A repetition of French. We had French
We
mistress
had before, your French
Yes,
mistress.
you did have a French mistress.
Excuse me, audience, those are the rules. Paul. Well, listen, you picked up correctly. 22 seconds available. Another point to you, of course. My hidden talent, starting now.
I dig tunnels under London. I've been doing this now for about 35 years. One of them was so successful, it was eventually turned into an extension of the Jubilee line. And I feel that this talent of mine is greatly hidden because what I do, I start inside my house. I dig down...
Kit, challenge.
It was dig.
Yes, you're doing
Two
a bit
digs.
too much
Dig,
digging
dig,
there.
dig the whole
Yes.
day through, didn't they?
So, Kit, you got in with 6 seconds to go. Tell us something about my hidden talent, starting now.
Gordon Brown promised us a government of all the talents. He didn't say that they would be so hidden as to be virtually undetectable.
In this game, whoever is speaking as the whistle goes gains an extra point. It was Kit Hesketh-Harvey then. He's got 2 points, so is Gyles. Shappi's got 1, Paul's got 4. Gyles, will you begin the next round? The subject, foul play. 60 seconds starting now.
I was a member of Parliament, but I want to make it absolutely clear to this audience that I am no longer an MP. And when I was, I dug my own moat and my wife paid for her own videos. The foul play that a month or two ago was exposed in the Palace of Westminster has shocked me to the core. Floating duck ponds, not foul play there, because of course they're quacking creatures. I suppose I have to ask what has happened to the mother of all parliaments. It is a tragic...
Kit, challenge.
Parliaments.
Parliaments
I'm
and
sorry,
the-
I'm sorry. Yes, I beg your pardon.
It's a singular... Explain to the listeners.
Hoisted by my own
He said
taxidermical
Parliament the first
petard.
time, member of Parliament, and now he's mother of all parliaments. It's a little trick they play in just a minute, and Kit didn't
Fell
spot it.
straight into the
So
moat.
it's an
Yeah.
incorrect challenge. Giles, you still have the subject. 32 seconds. Foul play starting now.
Is chicken soup with barley a foul play, I ask myself, a piece by Arnold Wesker? Let me return to the true elements of foul play that has been exposed exposed in our society in recent months. A shocking devastation of corrupt people, snouts in the trough, abusing the taxpayer, behaving as though they were members of the House of Lords.
We got House that time.
Yeah, Kit, you challenged, yes?
House that
He
time.
repeated House.
No.
House of Parliament. No, he said...
No, Houses of Parliament.
Well, I've done this again.
Houses of Parliament. And now the House of Lords.
so sorry.
You don't apologise, darling. We'll have to hear from you. But it was an incorrect challenge. Gyles, another point. Foul play still with you, Gyles. 11 seconds, starting now.
Oh, Calcutta was a foul play, but I rather enjoyed it because, given my hidden talent as a sort of secret Lothario, when you go to something that's randy and amusing...
Shappi,
I'm sorry, just as I buzzed, I realised that the
talking.
rules... Yes, I did realise you were talking.
That's the effect I had.
And also I remembered the rules of the game. Because I was going to pick you up on Lothario, but you said that in a completely different bit.
That's right. you
Yes,
did,
I just
unfortunately.
wanted to clarify that in case anyone
Well, it's lovely
thought-
to hear from you, Shappi.
Thank
don't
you.
worry. But it was an incorrect challenge, so
Yes, it
Gyles has another point, and 3 seconds, foul play, starting now.
Foul play is among the most horrific things in the world can ever tell.
So Gyles Brandreth started with that subject, and in spite of many interruptions, finished with the subject. So he got points throughout the round, and winners won for speaking as the whistle went. So he's now in the lead ahead of Paul Merton and Kit Hesketh-Harvey and Shappi Khorsandi in that order. Shappi, will you begin the next round? The subject, mummies. Will you tell us something about mummies in this game, starting now?
Yes, the mummies I'm going to talk about are the mummies that aren't always wrapped up head to toe and in a big box called a sarcophagus, I think. The mummies I'm going to talk about are the ones that I have
Paul challenge.
I talk.
It was I'm going to talk about.
I'm going to talk about the mummies.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Don't apologise, darling.
Oh, but I feel dreadful. I feel like I've let myself down and most of all let the government down, I feel.
No, I don't think anybody could do that. So, a correct challenge, Paul, and you have 50 seconds on mummies starting now.
The 1932 film starring Boris Karloff called The Mummy sort of typified the extent of how Hollywood looked towards these creatures. Egyptian originally, and they were wrapped up in these bandages. As a monster, it's not particularly effective because it moves very slowly. And what you want from somebody who's out to kill you, like Dracula or somebody who's hired by the craze...
Kit challenge.
There are two somebodies, I'm
There are
afraid.
two
yes,
somebodies,
I'm
yes,
so sorry.
yes. Somebody's out to kill you, or somebody like, right.
Yeah.
So, Kit, that time you were right.
At last.
Not a single in the plural. 31 seconds on mummies, starting now.
It's an amazing image, Howard Carter and Lord Carnarvon rolling aside the stone, peering in as the light shifts and hits a peculiar corpse.
Giles.
Hesitation.
Well, no, I think he was struggling a bit.
well,
and
that's what we call
on
it.
the cusp.
It was a bit of a slip on the word, but I don't think it's enough to be called hesitation. You have the benefit of the doubt, Kit. Another point, 23 seconds, mummies starting now.
I see wonderful things, and through the motes of dust uprises Nicholas Parsons.
Giles, you challenged.
Crawling combined with oncoming hesitation.
Oncoming hesitation. That's a good one.
You've tried that in your time, Paul. Don't tell me you haven't.
Yes.
A Lothario speaks.
I can't give you a point for crawling.
No.
But
No.
but
The
one
game
I was
collapsed
crawling. I was
if you
being
did.
rather rude about you, actually. It was
was.
the opposite of crawling, surely. It was just galloping.
we don't know what you were going to say because it was ongoing. Right. Giles, hesitation, a point to you. 16 seconds, mummies starting now.
I wish to speak of yummy mummies. In Kensington, where I live, a crash is what happens when two cars collide.
Paul Chandler.
Is nobody safe? From Giles's erotic ambitions.
Or are you conveying that all these yummy mummies were a result of him?
Well, we know where he's going with this, where he's going with everything else. If there's a nuclear explosion tomorrow and there's one man left to populate the planet, let it be Gyles. Yes.
Oh, yes! When you get to my age, you'll feel like this too, Paul.
Within
Look at Nicholas.
within the rules of just a minute, do you have a challenge?
Yes, I can't remember what it was, though.
No.
No, I haven't.
You don't. No, you get a bonus point for your interruption because you've got a wonderful reaction. Giles, you weren't interrupted, so you get a point. You still have 11 seconds. Tell us something more about mummies starting now.
Sex is what these mummies have their potatoes delivered in. They are charming people, very elegant, and they have their little pushchairs in which little children called Basil...
Kit challenge.
Two littles, little
Too
pushchairs
many
and little
littles
children.
there, yes. Little pushchairs and little things.
Damn and
But
blast.
Kit, you cleverly got in with 2 seconds to go.
marvellous.
And it's still Mummies starting now.
They've had their brains surgically removed through their noses.
So Kit Hesketh-Harvey, speaking then as the whistle when gained the extra point. He's now moved forward. He's equal with Paul in second place, just behind Gyles, and then comes Shappi, Khorsandi. And Kit, it's your turn to begin. The subject now is gap years. I imagine yours were quite a few years ago. We're looking at the audience. We feel there's quite a few gap years in the front here, actually. Anyway, 60 seconds as usual. Gap years, Kit, starting now.
This is very serendipitous. Only yesterday I was at Terminal 4 at Heathrow to greet my son back from his gap year. A gap year is called that because you tour third world countries and see where cheap chain store clothing is made. You then go to a beach in Thailand where you're so stoned your memory has an enormous gap in it. You don't know whether you're in Krabi or Phuket or Phi or Poo.
Is PP repetition?
Oh, no. You might as well say Addis Ababa is a repetition of Bubba.
It's spelt all as one word.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Is
I
it
had
an
no idea.
actual place?
Oh, yes.
it's an
Oh,
actual
I knew
place.
that.
It's got nothing to do with your life.
And I knew that Timbuktu was a real place.
That's right, yes.
I didn't know that till I was 26.
So, an incorrect challenge. And you still keep the subject, Kit, and you have 37 seconds gap years starting now.
In the grand old days of the tour when
Giles, you got in first. Yes.
Hesitation.
That was a hesitation, yes. Don't say it as if you were demanding it, just... say
What's wrong
inquiring,
with you today,
eh?
Giles?
Can you not inquire of the chairman? Would you interpret that as hesitation?
Oh,
Yes.
I'm so sorry.
Yes,
Is that the
sorry.
way it's done? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, yes, it
My
is.
suggestion would be that there was some hesitation.
And I would agree with you, Giles.
Thank
yes.
you.
It's nice to have it as a civilised way, isn't it? Right. Okay, Charles, 33 seconds, gap years, starting now.
Mine was rather a sad gap year. I spent it at home in London, living with my parents in a block of flats called Chiltern Court above Baker Street Tube Station. Next door in that apartment was Hughie Green. Indeed, if opportunity had knocked at a different address, I might have ended up as Peaches Geldof's great-uncle. Well, this wonderful toastmaster and host of television programmes had a train set.
Kit challenge.
Are we a long way from a gap?
No. I want to tell you that my gap year was spent with Hughie Green playing with his train set.
I think we did establish, and giving the benefit of the doubt
Yes,
to
okay,
Giles.
no,
I
that's
gave
fine,
benefit
that's
of the doubt to you last time, now to Giles. 12 seconds, Giles, gap years, starting now.
It is a pathetic thing to be alone in the capital of the British Empire when all around you are other students of the same age.
Shappi challenged.
There's no empire anymore.
No, but this is a long time ago. I'm talking about my gap year. There was an empire. Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes, in those days there was.
I kind of didn't know how to tell you.
No, there was an empire, there was
I
a
was a bit
king,
nervous.
there was a, king empress.
I've always wanted to ask you something, Giles.
You can.
Was-
0773124.
You'll find it in the more select phone boxes.
Shappi, what was your challenge when the rules were just a minute?
Oh, right. My challenge was that he said the capital of the British Empire, and I said it is
and
not
I think
there.
the empire did exist.
It
when
did
he
exist.
was
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
I never thought to look at you.
I know. That's very sweet as well.
But what I wanted to ask you was the character of Stewie in Family Guy based on you? I've always wanted to know that.
Well, that's a visual question, really, and on television, radio doesn't come over very well, but we'll say no, it wasn't, and give you a bonus point because we enjoyed your interruption. But Giles has a point, and 6 seconds on gap years, starting now.
The kit that you have to wear includes a rucksack and curious jeans that are frayed around the edge as you set off from Victoria Station.
Right, so Giles is steaming ahead. He said he only had 3 hours sleep last night. He works best on that, doesn't he? And he's got another point, of course, speaking of the whistle. Went with other points. He's increased his lead, in other words. And back with you, Paul. We'd like you to begin the next round. The subject, thick and fast. Who are we talking about? Well, the fast applies to Giles, but the thick doesn't. But anyway, thick and fast is the subject. Paul, 60 seconds, starting now.
Professional footballers. go thick and fast. If we look at them, because at the age of 7 they start playing this particular game and they're not interested in other aspects of life. And if they do succeed and end up playing for a top team, then every aspect of their existence is looked after. They don't contain their whole passports about them. They are told to go here and also mentioned over there.
Kit, you challenge first.
Very good, but there was a bit of a hesitation,
There was a hesitation.
I'm afraid. He
so,
was
Kit, you got
hamstrung by the
fast.
rules of just a minute.
Sorry, thick and fast, 38 seconds starting now.
I always think that the audience at Top Gear is pretty thick and fast. You look at Jeremy Clarkson and the man with lots of hair and the little one who looks like a hamster with the big lemur eyes, and you wonder why these people every week just go round and round.
Right, Gyles.
Is there the possibility that we heard round and then the word repeated
Yes,
again?
it was an oncoming hesitation.
Said round and then he hesitated.
It could have been roundabout.
And I then pointed out he was about to say round, and then came a hesitation.
No, what
I tried to say
actually
it
happened
politely
was, Gyles...
I tried to say it as politely as I could, but my patience was wearing a bit thin.
His intention was to repeat, but he didn't repeat, and the whistle went before he actually repeated. That's the contention I'm making, and I was listening very acutely, so I'm giving the benefit of the doubt again to you, Kit.
How very kind.
And say that you got 23
Civility
seconds.
does pay, doesn't it?
Thick and fast, starting now.
Jodie Marsh, I think, is very thick and fast, and I've high hopes of Paris Hilton, although I've never actually met her. But Peter Andre, the male version of the species, is discovering you cross the Jordan and you're out as fast as you can say Pickfords.
Gyles, right.
I hesitate to say this, but I sensed there was hesitation.
There was a definite hesitation.
So thick and fast, with you, Gyles. Correct challenge, 8 seconds, starting now.
Thick and Fast, a wonderful double act, great vaudevillians from the golden age of music hall. Fast and Thick is how they were correctly known. And of course...
So Gyles is on a roll here. He's got more points, including speaking for one as the whistle went, and has increased his lead. And it's Kit Hesketh-Harvey in second place, then Paul Merton, and then Shappi Khorsandi. And Shappi Khorsandi, it is your turn to begin. This subject should have gone to Gyles. Anger management. So will you start talking on anger management, Shappi, starting now?
A woman got on the tube yesterday with me, and it was a very crowded carriage, and she was very, very... I'm now very angry, and I need some management.
Right, so, Gyles, 54 seconds, anger management starting now.
This is the Buddhist way!
Well, Shappi, you challenge.
Sorry, that's not a word.
Yes, it is. It is.
I realised, if you're a Buddhist...
Yes, in do-it-yourself Buddhism, it's almost the first word.
Shappi, there was a repetition.
Yes,
No,
I thought so.
yes.
I thought that...
It's a single sound.
I once met a Buddhist, and it's an octave lower.
The Buddhist I met arrived on a bicycle.
Shappi, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt and say, right, correct challenge. And 52 seconds, tell us, take up your story now, gird your loins, as they say, and go into anger management. And 52 seconds, starting now.
When I met a very angry person,
Paul, challenge.
Well, you deliberately said very again.
I did.
Oh, yes.
Oh, you know...
Paul, a correct challenge. 49 seconds. Tell us something about anger management, starting now.
In this day and age, it is very easy to get wound up by the vicissitudes of society. Why, I was only travelling on public transport the other day, and I looked around at my fellow passengers, and I could see that a lot of them were experiencing...
Kid challenge.
Repetition of word.
Oh, yes, he did say whoa, that's right. 35 seconds, anger management's with you, Kit, starting now.
Somebody once said it's practically impossible to feel anger whilst looking at a penguin. So I suggest we all decamp from here, Gyles in particular, and go to Regent's Park.
Well, say you're a penguin.
Yes.
And I'm another penguin.
Yes.
And you're on my patch, and I look at you like that. I'm getting angry at a penguin.
That's the hole in the argument which I hadn't foreseen. You're quite right.
Yeah.
I don't know if it applies to other penguins. I think they were talking about people.
Oh, but you weren't sure, but I wasn't clear.
No, I should have made that clear.
I immediately
Quite
saw
right.
myself as a penguin, seeing you as a king penguin.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah.
An emperor, possibly.
Well, let's not go too far. The emperor's sitting over there, I think you'll find, anyway.
Kit, 26 seconds for you. Anger management starting now.
Like Dusty Springfield, I close my eyes and count to 10 and think of Marcus Aurelius, who said that the consequences of anger are so much worse than the causes. This is an educational thought, and I'm turning back into the vicar now, aren't I?
Shappi challenge.
You turned back into the vicar.
Yeah,
Yes,
I did.
And that was a hesitation.
Deviation.
Right. Shappi, 12 seconds. Tell us something more. And don't say very this
No,
time.
I won't. I'm not going to say anything, and then I'll win.
No. Anger management, 12 seconds, starting now.
When someone was shouting at me very... It's a syndrome.
It's a syndrome.
A syndrome.
Right. Who buzzed first? Kit, your light came on first. No, it didn't. Paul's.
No,
It was
it
Paul's.
wasn't.
Paul's.
Yeah, it was unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
If the subject was very, it'd be really good.
Paul, you had a correct challenge.
Yes.
9 seconds. Anger management starting now.
Very veries are the very.
You said very, veries, didn't you?
I did.
You did, right. And Gyles has got very sharp ears, but picked up it before you got to the S. Right, it's a incorrect challenge. Paul, another point to you. 7 seconds. Anger management starting now.
I've got a photograph of Gyles Brandreth in my living room, which I punch, and it gets rid of my anger management. I feel fantastic. I love him, of course.
So as we move into the final round, let me tell you that Gyles is still in the lead. He's about 3 ahead of Paul Merton, and he's about 4 ahead of Kit Hesketh-Harvey, and he's about 5 or 6 ahead of Shappi Khorsandi. So Kit, it's your turn to begin. So you start with now, tell us something about the Tate. 60 seconds starting now.
Rather like the television series The Apprentice, it's founded on sugar. There was a Victorian philanthropist who endowed a palace on the north bank of the Thames and filled it with contemporary art. Curiously enough, my bottom is hanging in the Tate. This is gospel truth. While I was a very calipiginous student at university, a photographer came and made an installation of my naked bottom, which was rapidly... I've said bottom twice, haven't I? There are 2 cheeks. Does that count?
It was a repetition of bottom.
There was a bottom, yes, there was a bottom. But Paul's light came on a fraction before yours. Because they were infinitesimal. They almost, yours caught up.
I thought you'd pulled out the plug. I understand. It's fine.
Can you see the
It's a
lights from there?
temptation.
Paul, you have 37 seconds on the Tate starting now.
The Tate, what a magnificent building nestling by the banks of the River Thames. I saw a Magnaw. That was the name of the exhibitor. Norwegian
I would
artist.
describe that as hesitation.
Yes, right, you were correct.
Magnaw is a Norwegian artist. He's one of the great 21st century installation artists. Magnaw, you never heard of him?
No, we haven't, and nor has the rest of the audience.
Well,
Anybody heard of him?
Somebody said yes. Somebody said yes.
They'll say anything to get you, Paul. Right. Giles, correct challenge. 31 seconds. The Tate starting now.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're wondering why I am here, then already we have something in common. My presence is accounted for by the fact that I am the world authority on the Tate Gallery. This comes as a result of knowing the great-granddaughter, Harriet Tate, of the founder's line. She was known as Hattie Tate.
Oh, I've done it again. It's turning into a pattern now. It's
That's
almost
right, yes.
excessive.
You thought he repeated Tate and it's on
No,
the...
no, I thought he repeated no and known.
Oh, right,
Yes.
you're right, yes, all these things. Giles, 13 seconds. The Tate starting now.
On the first floor of the Tate Gallery, you find...
Paul challenge.
Repetition of gallery.
Well
You
done.
mentioned the gallery before. I should explain to our listeners I got a look of absolute disdain and despair from Giles. As if to say, how dare you? Well, I have to dare on occasions.
You do, don't you?
Yes, right. And Paul, 10 seconds. Tell us something more about the Tate starting now.
I walked around this huge cavernous hall.
Giles challenge.
Earlier he referred to the building as being a huge one on the South Bank.
That's right.
Did I?
It's a huge repetition of huge.
Repetition of huge, rather as though it was a repetition of gallery.
I get the feeling if you didn't win today's show, you might kill yourself. And I couldn't have that on my hands.
No, so he has 7 seconds to tell us something about the Tate starting now.
My favourite painter is
Paul.
Sickert.
Hesitation, I'm afraid.
Yeah, that's right. You're
Worth it for the look of death, wasn't it? Well, I'm not the only one, surely. There's a gang of us in the car park.
It's an incorrect challenge, Gyles. So you have another point and 6 seconds starting now.
The pre-Raphaelites are among the most remarkable artists whose collection of work is now symbolised.
As I said, that was to be the last round, and it's finished up, I think you'll probably guess. Shappi came in a magnificent 4th place. She really did. She was... There you are. She hasn't played the game as much as the others, but her contribution was invaluable and charming and sexy as well.
Oh, my God.
And in 3rd place was Hesketh-Harvey, was less sexy, and Paul Merton, there was a touch of sex in there.
What's he going to say about Gyles?
Well, Gyles emphasised sex all through his speeches, and he came out on top with more points than anyone else. Great contribution. And it remains to say thank you to these 4 fine players of the game: Paul Merton, Hesketh-Harvey, Gyles, Brandreth, and Shappi Khorsandi. I thank Sarah Sharp, who's helped me with the score, kept blown her whistle so elegantly when the 60 seconds went up. We thank our producer, Claire Jones. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game, and we're very grateful to this lovely audience here in the Radio Theatre who've cheered us on our way. So from the audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the team, tune in the next time we play Just a Minute.
Next week's Just a Minute, or Jam from the Archives, will be from October 2009, when Nicholas Parsons' 60-second challenges go out to Paul Merton, Stephen Fry, Charles Collingwood and Jenny Eclair.
Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away once more, it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world, but also to welcome to the programme 4 talented, dynamic, diverse personalities who are going to show their skill with words and language as they try and speak on a subject that I give them, and they do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. And those 4 stalwart characters are seated on my right, Paul Merton and Charles Collingwood, and seated on my left, Jenny Eclair and Stephen Fry. Please welcome all 4 of them. Thank you. Thank you. Seated beside me is Sarah Sharp, who's going to help me keep the score and blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the Radio Theatre in the heart of Broadcasting House. And let's begin the show this week with Paul Merton. What a lovely subject to begin a show with. My idea of bliss. Paul, 60 seconds if you want them, starting now.
Let us enjoy the pure silence that is bliss. What happened then?
Charles, you've challenged right away.
Hesitation.
There was a hesitation.
Only if I started again would it be hesitation.
Why?
It's a full stop. It was meant to be blissful.
Well, it was. It was divine. I feel bad about it.
No, I wouldn't feel bad, because those are the rules of the game, Charles.
Thank you.
And so you have a point for a correct challenge. You take over the subject, which is my idea of bliss, and you have 56 seconds starting now.
My idea of bliss is taking my clothes off and getting into my warm bathroom and in the soapy suds lying back for at least 45 minutes. And during that time, my wife coming to the door, knocking and entering with a large gin and tonic, placing it by my side and saying, "Give me a shout when you're ready for me to dry you, darling, won't you?" Unfortunately...
Stephen, challenge.
I was my darling wife and darling, won't you?
Yes, you see, the two darlings. Yes, obviously, Charles, when you think of her, you couldn't resist saying darling
It's
again.
all darling with me.
Yes.
Only because you can't remember her name.
I've had so many.
Stephen, correct challenge. You have a point. You have 34 seconds, and the subject is my idea of bliss.
My idea of Bliss is Sir Arthur Edward Drummond Bliss, who was Master of the Queen's Music, made that, I think, in 1953. He was a composer of some note. I remember him best for his score of The Things to Come, a marvellous Corda movie of 1936, which is all one word, fortunately not a repetition. And he was succeeded by...
Paul challenged.
There was a slight hesitation there, didn't you?
There was a slight hesitation. You were so keen to tell us it wasn't a repetition because you hesitated.
Well, I just suddenly thought I'd said 19 twice, and I thought...
I know, this is what happens in this game, isn't it? Yes, it strips you up as you go. Paul, you've come in, we've got the subject back again, and there are 13 seconds available. My idea of Bliss starting now.
Is to be playing Just a Minute here in London in front of a magnificent, intelligent audience at Broadcasting House. That I am professionally associated with this show is a constant source of bliss to me when I look around...
Well, they all got points in that round, except Jenny, but that doesn't matter. She's going to speak quite soon. Paul got that extra one, because in this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gets an extra point. So Paul's in a commanding lead at the end of the first round. He has 2 points, the others have 1. Right. Jenny, Eclair, will you begin the next round? The subject here is loyalty cards. Can you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
I don't have any loyalty cards because I am a retail whore. That said, once, when I was doing a radio programme in Notting Hill, I used to stop at a coffee shop and they gave me a loyalty card. Every morning when I popped in for my latte, they'd stamp the card. And I was about to fill it up when I was sacked. Do you know that was the price of loyalty? I was furious. Not just at the fact that I had been sacked from quite a lucrative job. Double sacking, and I hadn't filled my loyalty card, so no free latte. What a miserable experience.
I know, but all the audience spotted the repetition, and Stephen pressed his buzzer first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So, yes, there we are.
It's the game, if you want to play it like that.
Darling, if we don't play it like that, there's going to be no fun at all, is there? Stephen, correct challenge. Another point to you. 34 seconds available. Loyalty cards starting now.
Well, they seem to abound these days, don't they? You know what's so good about Sainsbury's? Keeps the scum out of Waitrose. That's what I think. Anyway, whenever I'm shopping, they seem to present me with these extraordinary questions. Do you have a nectar card? No, I don't. I never will have one. I don't want such a thing. I, in fact, have no idea what it is. Some kind of loyalty card, I am told. I think the idea is the more you spend, the greater the amount of subsidiary goods you can earn thereby. This seems to be an ancient principle.
On this occasion, Stephen Fry was speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point. He's now taking the lead ahead of Paul and Charles Collingwood. Will you begin the next round? I think I know why this subject's been chosen for you, but we can all chat on it. The Battle of Trafalgar. Charles, tell us something about that famous battle in this game, starting now.
As you all know, the Battle of Trafalgar was in 1805, and Nelson was in charge. Sadly, he was dressed as a little strutting turkey cock. The Spaniards espied him, shot him, and after a little kiss from Hardy, Collingwood took over and won the Battle of Trafalgar for the nation. And I am quite angry that out here, not far from where we're sitting, is a huge statue to the aforementioned admiral instead of my... How dare anybody interrupt me? Who could have been?
The man sitting beside you, Paul Merton, challenger.
Well, yes, you said aforementioned admiral. It was a repetition of admiral.
You Admiral. You mentioned Admiral Lord Nelson at the beginning.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm quite sure.
OK,
darling boy, we couldn't help but hear every word you said.
Well, it was important.
Very important. But I don't think you've yet established that the reason you were going on about Collingwood is that you are related to him.
Of course. I mean,
of course.
All of the world knows that.
It wasn't just the name.
No.
Right.
I'm so important.
It's on the illegitimate side, though, I can tell.
Completely. And the slightly not frightfully bright side.
So, Paul, the correct challenge, you have 34 seconds. The Battle of Trafalgar, Paul, 34 seconds, starting now.
Recent evidence shows that Collingwood was a French spy who did everything he could.
Charles, you've challenged.
That is deviation. There can be no way that Collingwood was a French spy. And you can tell by the reaction, Paul, from the audience that they're on my side.
Yeah. It's a pity he wasn't. Recent evidence The British Library, recent evidence.
It's getting a bit like any questions.
No, it isn't. I mean, there's much funnier.
Well, that's not much of a recommendation, though, is it?
Charles, I mean, we go with your passion about this.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he can say that
Yes.
he was a spy
Yeah.
without having every evidence. He might go on to prove that he was.
Do
We
I get
don't
an
know.
extra point for sympathy, then?
No, you don't.
That's what you get for sympathy.
I'll give you a point for passion.
Thank you.
Oh, there we are.
All points for passion.
They're finding out about us now, Nicholas.
Right, there we are. So, Paul, you have a correct challenge. 30 seconds are still available. The Battle of Trafalgar starting now.
As they woke up on the morning of the battle, looked out towards the sea, they could find several ships coming...
Jenny challenged.
Well, it's the Battle of Trafalgar. He said it was out at sea. It's in Trafalgar Square where they had the battle, isn't it? What? What? Why is it called Trafalgar Square if they didn't fight in Trafalgar Square?
Because it was named after the Battle of Trafalgar.
In Trafalgar Square?
They do have battles there now, but they're much more sort of...
Saturday night with the boys and girls.
That's right, yes.
On the alcove
Political
pops.
battles. It was a lovely idea of yours, Jenny.
Yes.
So we'll
I was being ironic and not just stupid.
we're going to give you a bonus point because we enjoyed your interruption, all right? But Paul was interrupted. Thank you. And he gets a point for that. And 23 seconds still available. The Battle of Trafalgar starting now.
I can hear Charles making low grunting noises as somebody else actually takes on a subject he wanted to speak about with the great passion.
Jenny challenged.
Slight deviation because he's talking about Charles and not the Battle of Trafalgar.
So the Charles was talking about the subject about the
He
Trafalgar.
made it quite clear, darling. He said he was talking about the Battle of Trafalgar with great passion. Which he was.
All right.
It was a good attempt, but it was useless.
Is there a gas leak?
Paul, 16 seconds still available. The Battle of Trafalgar starting now.
Smoke curled above the waves. Each sailor looked in the eyes of each other and thought to themselves...
Stephen.
Each looked in the eyes of each other.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't know whether you're applauding the fact that Stephen spotted it or you're mocking Paul for what he said. Very strange mixed reaction.
I was painting a picture.
Yeah, well,
It was a wonderful picture, actually, but it was an incorrect one in just a minute.
Oh, yeah.
So, Stephen, correct challenge. 10 seconds are now available for you on the Battle of Trafalgar, starting now.
The 21st of October, just after 6 o'clock, or 1805 as it's better known, is a day in the annals of British history.
Paul challenge.
Well, just after 6 o'clock isn't better known...
As 1805?
It's 1805, but it's not really, because it could be sort of 1801, 1802... But, Nicholas...
Battle is better known
I
as
think this is one of
1805.
those difficult decisions one has to make. But logically, you're right, aren't you?
Of course I am.
Yes.
Otherwise, I wouldn't be wasting
No,
our
the date
time.
is just after 6, or better known as... The date of Trafalgar is definitely better known as 1805.
Yes, better known than 1805, which is the time on the 24-hour clock.
Yeah.
Stephen, you were incorrect challenge. You keep the subject. Battle of Trafalgar. 3 seconds starting now.
A little touch of Nelson can never do any harm to a nation's reputation.
Right. So, at the end of that round, Paul and Stephen both got points. Stephen for speaking as the whistle went. And they are now equal in the lead, just ahead of Charles Collingwood and Jenny Eclair. And, Stephen, it's your turn to begin. The subject here, I'm sure it's been chosen for you because it's, it's been chosen for there's a challenge to any of them in this game. Infinity.
Oh, my Lord.
Infinity. There's a deathly hush as Stephen starts to talk on the subject of infinity, beginning now.
Well, infinity isn't so much a substance or an object or a fact or a thing, so much as
Charles challenge.
Lots of oars.
Oh,
yes.
It was a sort of...
I mean, almost to infinity.
Oh, aren't you allowed to do little words?
Not 7 times.
Not 7 times.
Oh, OK.
Not 3 or 4 times.
Can I count his thes?
Yes.
Can I?
Not
Are you giving me
respectively.
permission to count how many times he says the when he wins the challenge?
If you manage to do that, yes.
OK.
Right.
You'll join me, audience, sir?
It's all getting a bit ugly.
No, it's just interesting.
But one does have to use some discretion and some creative intelligence about this. Right, so, but 3 successive oars like that, I mean... we
You
don't want
stuck your oar in.
And Who challenged? Oars, yes, it was Charles Collingwood. Infinity is with you now, Charles. 56 seconds starting now.
This is a very difficult subject to define, but surely we can all remember when we were at school doing long division, and you would come to a sum which would never end. Somehow you felt it would, and all day you would try to make it come.
Jenny challenged.
Two woods.
Yeah. Two woods. Infinity.
Well, at least it wasn't Stephen counting the V's.
Yeah, no, it's true. Jenny, Infinity is now with you, and there are 41 seconds starting now.
To infinity and beyond, said Buzz Lightyear in the children's film Toy Story, and became the most popular children's gift that year.
Stephen, you've got in there on the children, and so you have 31 seconds. Infinity, back with you, Stephen, starting now.
As I was saying before, I was rudely interrupted by Charles Collingwood. Infinity is essentially a concept, a notion. It has no real meaning as such. However, the great mathematician Srinivasa Ramanujan, who came from Tamil Nadu and had a great collaboration with G.H. Hardy, of course, in the early part of the last century, wrote on convergent infinite series, one of the most astounding and interesting series of...
Jenny. So she's got back at you. So, Jenny, let's hear what it was.
He hesitated.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Oh, he did hesitate.
Yeah,
I thought he repeated something as well. I thought you were going for that. Doesn't matter. It's 7 seconds. You have a correct challenge. You have a point. You have Infinity starting now.
I do love an infinity pool. They always say in the brochures, swim in these crystal waters under azure skies.
So Jenny Eclair was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point for doing so. She's leapt forward. She's still in third place, but she's leapt. She's only 1 point behind Paul. She's 2 points behind Stephen, and she's 2 points ahead of Charles. That's the situation as we go. You couldn't really care less, could you? Paul, Merton, we're back with you to begin, and the subject is party games. Will you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
We used to play party games when I was growing up in the family. One was Blind Man's Buff, you tie.
I'm sorry.
Why did you say
I just thought he was talking rubbish, and he wasn't. And because I'm getting old, my little finger twitched. So
a road to Damascus moment when suddenly I stopped talking rubbish. It all became crystal clear.
It's usually such a safe bet.
Just pretend it's never happened.
Yeah. Anyway, it was an incorrect challenge, and Paul has a point, of course, and he has 55 seconds still on party games, starting now.
The idea, once you were blinded, to walk around and find where other people were staying. Sometimes they were as far away as Lowestoft, which in public transport would mean you would have to take an awful long time to get there. I remember once my parents, in a mean streak, decided to road map my way to Aberdeen.
Stephen challenge.
It was 2 ways.
That's right.
Yes, it didn't make any sense at all that time. But having sort of won the challenge of Charles last time, nobody wanted to call me on it.
Right, so correct challenge, Stephen. 34 seconds available. Party games with you, Stephen, starting now.
I suppose liberal sardines, conservative, pin the tail on the donkey.
Paul challenge.
Was there a hesitation?
There was a
It was
hesitation,
really, wasn't
yes.
it? I was gathering my thoughts.
Yes,
And
yes.
I left too long a space between words, which sometimes seems to be hesitation. But it actually depends on the way you listen. Still, there you go.
Paul, a correct challenge. 30 seconds available. Party games starting now.
When Howard Wilson became leader of the Labour Party in the early 1960s, there was much joshing for position. There were people like, for example, I can't really think of any of them. What a bizarre approach to the subject. I've no interest in that subject. Why on earth did I...
Oh, they must have been so memorable. Stephen, you challenged first. Hesitation, we all recognised it. Party games with you. 20 seconds starting now.
Hide and Seek, not one of his better-known symphonies, dedicated to Amritsar, I suppose. No, that's a game, of course, isn't it? Played by children commonly in country houses, where one child goes off to conceal themselves in a small area, niche or alcove.
Paul challenge.
Did you say that hide and seek was commonly carried out in country houses?
No.
It's played in other places as well.
No, but it's commonly done there too. I didn't say only in country houses.
Oh, I see. I misunderstood.
No, he didn't say only. He did say commonly played there. It is commonly played there, but not only, yes.
Yeah.
It's not so much fun in a bedsit now.
No. There's got to be room, hasn't there?
It's either the wardrobe or under the bed.
I mean, that was what was in his mind. Obviously, there's more space and more scope
absolutely.
in a country house.
Quite
no,
right.
it wasn't, and it must be fair, it was an incorrect challenge. 6 seconds still with you, Stephen. Party games are starting now.
Another pastime often pursued in rural seats is Moriarty. Are you there?
Jenny challenged.
Rural, two rurals.
No, it's
No. As I said it, I knew I was wrong, and I'm really sorry. I just really wanted to tell some stories about when I used to play party games.
Well, let Stephen finish and
Yeah,
have your
all right.
party games afterwards. An incorrect challenge. 2 seconds ago, party game, Stephen, starting now.
Someone is it and another person...
So Stephen was speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point. He's increased his lead over Paul Merton and the other two. And Jenny, what was your party game story?
Well, it was just that my mum used to think a really good party game was the tray game. Do you remember that? And it was kind of a bit like being at school.
A memory.
Yeah, a memory thing. She'd come in with a tray loaded up with stuff on the tray, and you had to remember what it was.
Pelmanism, they sometimes
It was called Pelmanism.
Was it?
Pelmanism.
Yes, that's right.
It was really hard. It used to... What kind of party is this? This is a rubbish game. It was kind of game you'd enjoy and probably win.
Yes.
You'd be the boy going,
Yes.
let's play Pelmanism, let's play Pelmanism.
Yeah, because I am a joyless, mirthless person who finds no pleasure in life or other people. Jenny, as you've rightly spotted.
I think the concept was taken over when they did, beat the clock and all those things past
Yes,
the
that's
person
right,
they tried to remember.
Generation game.
Generation game.
Generation game. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you for correcting me there.
So,
That
man.
was another game.
That was Brucey, both Brucey.
It's
weren't
still
they?
both Brucey, yes.
Okay.
Oh, this is another subject which has got a connection with the last subject, actually.
Yes.
It's tagging. So, Jenny, Claire, we'd like you to begin on this one. Tell us something about tagging in just a minute, starting now.
Well, tagging can be something that graffiti artists do when they scribble on walls and think it's art. I think it's absolute vandalism. They should be beaten.
Stephen Challenge.
Sorry, I feel, when they think it's art, I think. It's,
Yes, there's too many I
next
thinkings,
to each
isn't
other.
there?
and
Yeah,
that
they were
was-
close, weren't they?
And my thumb, I feel such a bully. I feel so...
54 seconds for you, Stephen,
I'll
on
get it back.
tagging, starting now.
There's geotagging, RFI tagging. The tagging of prisoners has become rather popular and I would say controversial too. My favourite sort is metadata tagging as used in computers. I agree many would find it rather unpleasant, uninteresting, dull, tedious, banal. However, for me, it represents a whole new universe of concepts that are available with computerised databases. It's possible to have... What did I do?
I'm fascinated to know your challenge.
Did he
Paul.
repeat syrup of figs? I thought we had repetition of data.
Yes,
No,
there
I
was
didn't
data.
say it twice.
Oh, yes.
No.
All right.
No, he didn't say it
Did he
twice.
say it twice?
No. He avoided nearly every other word, but he didn't. Right. But I agree with you. It was a bit of a syrup of figs, wasn't it? But Stephen, you were interrupted, so you get a point for that. You continue with tagging. 28 seconds, starting now.
Is memory playing false, or was there on Saturday evenings on ITV some kind of wrestling which involved tagging? Two teams, one would touch the other, leap into the ring, there'd be that pre-arranged...
Charles Challenge.
Were there two rings?
Yes.
Was there? Oh.
I don't know, wrestling.
No, wrestling.
What? No.
They're
Yes?
trying very hard, aren't they? Yes. Yes, it was called a
Steve.
tag match, actually, Stephen. That's quite right.
Yeah, oh,
and
yes.
it's when you had two different teams where only two wrestlers were in the ring at the same
one time.
And then one would come over, he'd tag him, and then he'd leap in and take over.
That's right.
And it's a great version of
You still miss those days, do you? You and Mrs. Mills, do you miss those days?
Right. So, was it you who challenged then?
No, I think it was.
It was Charles, wasn't
Charles,
it?
yeah.
Me. And I think I was right, wasn't I? Was I
No,
right?
you
Such a
weren't.
long time ago, I'm sure you might have
No.
forgotten.
I do remember you challenged him for a repetition of the word ring.
Yes.
And he didn't repeat the word ring.
You are so good at this.
I've got to keep concentrating all
You
the
are
time.
so brilliant, Nicholas Parsons.
Oh, keep it up, Charles. We'll get a bonus point in a minute.
Just give us a few bonus points.
17 seconds. Still with you, Stephen. Tagging, starting now.
Another popular and contemporary form of tagging involves...
Charles.
Surely that contemporary.
I think we give you the benefit of the doubt.
Oh, smashing.
It was... and say yes. It was It could be interpreted as a hesitation. And Charles, you have a point. And you have tagging, 15 seconds starting now.
Tagging was a game we used to play at Christmas in my house. You would put a label on someone's back, and then you would run round our vast country estate trying to pull the tag off. It was a pastime.
Hesitation, I'm afraid.
Yes, it was. So, Paul, you've got in with 1 second to go.
I'll make it seem longer.
You gained the point, but not the sympathy of the audience. But those are the rules of Just a Minute, audience. So there we are. Paul, another point to you. 1 second tagging starting now.
There's a brick wall.
Right, so at the end of that round, Paul Merton was speaking at the whistle. When gained an extra point, he's creeping up on Stephen, who's still in the lead, and they're a few points ahead of Jenny Eclair and Charles Collingwood. As we begin the final round, and Stephen, it's actually your turn to begin. And what a lovely subject. Let's finish on a beautiful way and talk about the subject of beauty. Starting now.
A thing of beauty is an object of truth and a joy forever, so said the poet John Keats, or words to that effect, without the kind of repetition that I would have to use in order properly to cite him. Beauty is a platonic form, a paradigm. It can't actually exist, according to that Greek philosopher. However, we see the beautiful all around us, if not its abstract manifestation. There are forms in which...
Jenny, challenge.
Forms twice.
No, it was a platonic form and then forms.
Oh, God, no. Yeah.
You see,
Yeah.
Stephen does
right.
actually
He's
listen
right.
to what he's saying. Which is... So,
I'm listening, but I'm struggling.
He's making my buzzer. I've gone all clammy on my buzzer.
I'm sweaty palms.
Have you got a clammy buzzer?
Yes.
I have. Your buzzer clammy?
But, darling, you're still contributing, and that's what's so lovely. Stephen, an incorrect challenge was form and forms. 30 seconds, beauty starting now.
La belle et la bête. We've always been slightly obsessed with beauty and its opposite. Kenneth Tynan described it as the awful privilege of beauty. And so it is. To be born with beauty seems to me a kind of primal curse, for it grows away from...
Paul, challenge.
It's not that bad.
So, you know, Paul, what I'm tempted to do, because the response to your remark was so astounding, I'm going to give you a bonus point for that.
Hey.
Right. And it is a subtle form of deviation. So we give you the subject as well.
Oh!
Well, it doesn't matter. Well, it wasn't really... It wasn't a complete deviation, but I'm actually playing the game now in the sense that we've only got 5 seconds to go, and you
patronise.
I don't think
Paul, whatever you do.
I don't think you can be
needs your
beaten.
help.
I don't think you can be beaten, and there's 5 seconds to go, and I think...
Let's all get a chance to join in.
No, sorry, it's 15 seconds to go, so you might help. So there's another chance for you to get more points. 15 seconds on beauty, Paul, starting now.
Just a Minute as a programme contains more than its full share of beauty. Just look at the panel on display here tonight. Stephen.
Jenny, challenge.
Well, he's talking rubbish, apart from me. The rest of you are twisted little dwarf-type freaking...
Can you justify that?
Well, let's say that this programme has never successfully made it on the telly, and I think there's a reason for that, and this panel kind of illustrates that quite adequately.
That's all right, my darling. You said enough. I gave the benefit of the doubt to Paul, and he came in on the subject then. There's 7 seconds to go. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, Jenny, and say, you come in, 7 seconds, beauty, starting now.
On Beauty is a book written by the authoress Zadie Smith. I have read it and agreed with a lot.
So Jenny Eclair was then speaking as the whistle when gained that extra point and has moved forward. Let me give you the final situation. Charles Collingwood gave his usual good value but finished up in 4th place. Oh, yes, he got all the sympathy as well. And just ahead of him, a few points ahead further, was the lovely Jenny Eclair, who contributed so much but didn't manage to overtake the other two boys. Paul finished up in 2nd place, but 4 or 5 points ahead of him was Stephen Fry. So we say, Stephen, this week you are the winner. Oh. Right. So, it only remains for me to say thank you to these four fine players of this game: Paul Merton, Charles Collingwood, Jenny Eclair and Stephen Fry. I also thank Sarah Sharp, who's helped me with the score. She'd blown her whistle with great aplomb when the 60 seconds elapsed. We are grateful to our producer, Claire Jones. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. So from our audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and our panel, thank you, and tune in again the next time we play Just a Minute. Yes! Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners in this country and around the world, but to welcome four exciting, talented, humorous and delightful individuals who are going to show their verbal ingenuity and dexterity and their sharpness and wit as they try and speak on a subject that I give them, and they try and do that without hesitation, repetition or deviation. And they are seated on my right, Paul Merton and Kit Hesketh-Harvey, and seated on my left, they are Gyles Brandreth and Shappi Khorsandi. Would you please welcome all four of them? Beside me sits Sarah Sharp, who's going to help me keep a score and blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And we have a delightful audience here, eager and ready for us to start. So let's begin the show with Kit Hesketh-Harvey. Kit, what an interesting subject for this show. What others find irritating about me? What others find irritating about me? Kit Hesketh-Harvey, starting now.
I suppose it's the same as any homme d'un certain age. It's the snoring. I've tried those prognathic, prosthetic things that make you look like Philip of Spain. I've dangled upside down from the bedpost. I've given up smoking and whiskey late at night. No pillows. It's hopeless. I sound as though the Olympic Village is being built in my bed. I sometimes wake myself up. It's desperate, and I come down in the morning shambling and exhausted, with my wife fuming at me, saying, "How could you?"
Charles, you challenge.
I thought he was on the way to a wonderful 1 minute one, but I'm afraid there was definitely
I'm
a
afraid,
hesitation.
yes.
There was a hesitation. Yes.
Sleeplessness
I
caught
listened
up
to
with
it,
me.
Giles. I agree with you. He did a half minute to go on that because there's 29 seconds available. Giles, you tell us something about what others find...
How many seconds has he got?
He's got 29 seconds.
Really?
What others find irritating about me, Giles, starting now.
In a word, nothing. Either that or...
Paul challenge.
So I can't make it go off. Just like the thing just took on a life of its own there. Well, I think there must be some things that people would find irritating about Giles.
I was about to go on to it, because I actually, when you interrupted...
We said nothing.
No, you said nothing to begin with.
Either that or I was going to...
No, you said nothing, and we take that as nothing. Paul, correct challenge. Oh, yes. 27 seconds. What others find irritating about me, starting now?
They can't stand my constant attempts to impersonate Nat King Cole. Smile, though your heart is aching. And I do that all the time. I go into shops and people say, "What would you like today, sir?" And I start singing something from that golden...
Giles.
Deviation.
Why?
Because I have to say, I've got a record of Paul Merton sings Nat King Cole. It's a particular favourite in our family. I think the way he does it is smooth, it's exciting. There's a kind of sort of subtext of held-back sexuality. It's wonderful, and I recommend it as for everybody's Christmas stocking.
That balances out the bad review I got in NME.
Nobody finds that irritating. Nobody finds Paul's Nat King Cole irritating.
No, he's quite right. I've done concerts. They do love it.
Giles, I think you're talking rubbish. We're still with you, Paul. 14 seconds. What others find irritating about me, starting now?
In the past, I have won Just a Minute quite a few times, which I don't think is particularly good for the game. I like to enjoy playing, of course, but...
Kit challenge.
I'm stopping him from winning the game, is that right?
But you're not, because you've given me a point for a wrong challenge.
Paul, an incorrect challenge. You've still got 5 seconds. What others find irritating about me, starting now?
I do take contracts out on public figures, and people do find that irritating.
Whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point. On this occasion, it was Paul Merton. Shappi, we'd like you to begin the next round. Good subject here, baggage. Tell us something about baggage in this game, starting now.
My favourite kind of baggage would have to be emotional baggage. I gather it throughout my life like a collector of things that other people hate. And I like to bestow my emotional baggage upon...
Ah, I know why they've challenged Gyles.
A repetition of emotional baggage?
It's the subject's baggage, darling.
You know what? I have so much emotional baggage that's what I heard you say. I was so keen to share my emotional baggage.
Can I say, I don't want to appear irritating, so if you'd like to carry on, I'd love to hear more of what you've got to say.
I'm afraid the rules of this game don't permit me to
well, no, but the other three can be generous and say, yes, carry on.
Yes,
we'd like to.
Oh, now.
Right, no, darling, it's baggage, not emotional baggage, and it's 47 seconds starting now.
I like to look at the carousel when I come out of the aeroplane because I always tie a little ribbon around my bag, and then I find that half of England have also tied little ribbons around their ribbons.
No, one singular, one plural. You're still there.
I am still there.
It's just that Kit is very irritating. and if he concedes it to you, don't be patronised by him. You know,
no, I think you had the benefit of the doubt on the other one, so I've got to give it to you again.
It was repetition of little, it wasn't the...
Yes, I know it was, but we're going to let her carry on because otherwise
of course we are. You didn't get it wrong, mate. Sorry, I apologise.
You obviously weren't listening. There was a repetition of little and lots of other things, but we want to hear from her on this subject. It wouldn't be fair because otherwise it was somebody else who challenged. Now, this time it's somebody different. It wouldn't be fair to go... I know I'm talking a lot of... But anyway, let's get on with it. 35 seconds, Shappi. Baggage, starting now.
Once when I was in France, they lost my baggage and I was only 12 years old. Luckily, I remembered the word valise and kept saying, ooh, the word beginning with V, that...
Gyles challenge.
The word and then the word repeated again.
The word, yes, I did repeat. I just like to keep you on your toes, Gyles Brandreth.
That's right, yes.
That's the worst place to keep it. He's likely to pounce.
Right, 23 seconds, Gyles. You had a correct challenge. Baggage, starting now.
The great proverbs of the world include laugh and the world roars with you, snore and you sleep alone.
Challenge.
Repetition of world.
Yes, the laugh and the world laughs.
Oh, of course.
Yes, of course.
Of course, I'm trying not to be irritating. I'm making these deliberate mistakes. I'm hoping it's working.
Are you peaking a little, do you think?
He's having a good look from where I'm sitting.
18 seconds, Kit. Baggage with you, starting now.
Baggage is meant to be a pejorative term. I don't think so. Look at Shappi. She's a sexy little Prada number. Giles, Vuitton, flashing with the...
Shappi challenge.
Sorry, I don't own anything Prada. I mean, who can... Only I can tell you what I'm like. If you'd said Mulberry, I wouldn't have buzzed.
No, he was paying you a very nice compliment.
I was complimented.
Yeah, you were complimented. Good. So you've taken your compliment, but you had an incorrect challenge. Kit's got the subject still. Baggage, 10 seconds, starting now.
I would have said Mulberry was Paul Merton, attractively battered with age. And then there's the little bag for life that is Nicholas Parsons.
Paul challenge.
Have you been going through my bins? He's got me down to a T. That's quite scary.
Right, so what's your challenge with...
Nothing, I just bask in the admiration of the accuracy of his summation of my character.
Right. So we enjoyed that very much, Paul. We'll give you a bonus point for that. Kit, you were interrupted. You get a point. You had 3 seconds more on baggage, starting now.
Now that Terminal 5 is in Windsor Castle, the Queen is going through all the rubbish.
So at the end of that round, it was Kit Hesketh-Harvey who was speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point. He's now in second place behind Paul Merton, who's in the lead, and Shappi, Khorsandi and Gyles are in third place equal. And Gyles, we'd like to begin the next round. A fool's paradise. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
I have lived in a fool's paradise all my life, thinking the world was a friendly place. It isn't. It's a hostile one. But I have treated it like Toyland. Noddy, Big Ears, Mr. Plod, these are the folk heroes for me. I look about me, and when I see Nicholas, I do not perceive a hostile, vicious person, but somebody who is generous, warm, avuncular, a kind of Billy Bunter crossed with Mr. Quelch. A figure...
Deviation. There's no way that Nicholas could be described as a cross between Billy Bunter and Mr. Quelch.
Neither in my figure or my personality.
No, yes. You're like a figure from my childhood. There's something reassuring about you. You're like a sort of character from a cartoon. You're lovely.
Well, you should have said that instead of what you did say.
I was coming on to say that.
Yeah, right.
But this is like the Prada thing again, you see. This is exactly the same as what happened before. He said something about you that you don't agree with.
No, I didn't. It was Paul who disagreed. And so I had to decide on the challenge, and I think the challenge is legitimate. So, Paul, you have a correct point, and you have 36 seconds of fool's paradise starting now.
I rather agree with what Gyles has just said. Maybe there is something to be said. Oh, I've said 4 times.
Gyles, you challenge.
He said 4 times.
He did say said.
I actually said it 3 times.
No, I know that. But I was going along with
his challenge was wrong.
No. Repetition of said.
Don't worry, Gyles, I would have given you... I'm always fair in my decisions, Gyles. A correct challenge, 32 seconds, a fool's paradise, starting now.
Look at our chairman and you see George Clooney and Kermit the Frog in one suit. A vision of loveliness. A fool's paradise, you may think, but no. A place to live in happiness and security. Of course we are naive.
Kit challenge.
You've had security already.
You've had security before.
His rantings before, I think. His happy little childhood.
His happy childhood,
with
the
Noddy
security.
and Toyland. Yes.
So, Kit, correct challenge. Don't look as if you didn't say it, Gyles. I know you did. 18 seconds for Fool's Paradise, starting now.
Your paradise depends on what kind of fool you are. If you're rhubarb, it's the land of green ginger. Gooseberry, it's somewhere where you can have an affair. And if you're an Eton mess, it's the shadow cabinet. Fool's
challenge.
I'm a bit mean, perhaps. There was a bit of a hesitation.
There was actually a correct challenge, but it was such a wonderful statement and such a lovely laugh. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say it wasn't quite enough for hesitation and say you've still got 6 seconds, Kit, on A Fool's Paradise, starting now.
That's because Nicholas is in a fool's paradise. He's had his Senatogen. He thinks he's on Bora Bora being fed kumquats by ladyboys.
Sorry, Bora Bora. Is that repetition?
Bora Bora is 2 words.
Is
so
it?
Correct challenge. So you get it all
I wasn't
back.
in the South
You have the benefit of the doubt there. It's right. And you have 1 second, Paul, on A Fool's Paradise, starting now.
How lovely to live in Streatham.
So Paul Merton was speaking then as a whistle when gained that extra point. He's now gone ahead of Kit Hesketh-Harvey, and they're followed in by Gyles, Brandreth and Shappi Khorsandi in that order. And Paul, it's your turn to begin. My expenses. 60 seconds starting now.
My expenses on Just a Minute are truly huge. I get, in fact, an enormous sum of money, which I do, in fact... Oh.
Kit challenge.
Sorry, in fact.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yes.
He knew he'd said something which was quite fallacious about the huge...
It's a bit early for that sort of thing, isn't it?
Incorrect about his expenses. Right, 53 seconds with you, Kit. My expenses starting now.
I'm very aware that you, the licensed pair, are paying for all this, and so I rode in today on Nicholas's private chopper. I ate the lark's tongues when Paul had finished with the rest of the beast, and I'm in a little put-you-up in Giles's butler's pantry in his suite at Claridge's tonight, when Shappi gets...
Giles,
to put you up with Gyles is just an awful, awful image. And
no deviation. The bit about the butler's pantry, spot on.
But the images he created that what went on there were just a bit overwhelming. Right, Giles, correct challenge. You have 34 seconds on My expenses starting now.
I came here on the tube and was late because there was this enormous sign at the top of the escalator saying dogs must be carried on this piece of machinery. Took me 40 minutes to find one. It is humbling when you have to travel by public transport, but I understand the need for it. I applied to Mark Thompson, the Director General, for a floating duck pond. I said I need it for research in case this subject comes up on Just a Minute, where I'm trying to behave in a very calm and rational way to show that my expenses must not include psychiatric bills. All of us in our time have been through a midlife crisis. For me, this is a particularly acute one.
Kit Challenge.
I haven't, actually.
What?
No, I've been through a midlife crisis. And you clearly haven't. Your face is unlined, serene.
So what's your challenge?
Deviation. You haven't been through a midlife crisis.
But did he say we all had been?
He said we've all been.
So you said everybody had, yeah.
Oh, we had everybody had, yes. I don't know I have or not. Could you tell me?
Unless you're having it now.
Yeah. Maybe it's coming. That'd be great.
It's a hell of a job if it's a midlife crisis you're having.
I have little...
Early life crisis, Nicholas will live forever.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Right, Kit, a correct challenge. My expenses is with you, and there's only 1 second to go. And you start now.
When Shappi has a massage.
So Kit was then speaking as the whistle went, again that extra point. He's taken the lead again, 1 ahead of Paul Merton, and then Gyles and Shappi in that order. And Kit, it's also your turn to begin. A lovely subject here, one of my favourite authors, Scott Fitzgerald. Tell us something about him in this game, starting now.
Oh, dear, I know all about Scott Fitzgerald. I was in a musical that burnt and crashed in the West End about 5 years ago. Well, it struggled on despite the critics, which is rather what Francis Scott Fitzgerald himself did, the America's greatest writer of prose, probably married to a complete Lala called... Oops, is that a repetition of Lala?
Was she from Bora Bora? This Lala, is that a repetition of La?
La, yes.
I think it probably is, isn't it?
It is.
Yes.
Paul, 44 seconds are available. You tell us something about Scott Fitzgerald, starting now.
My favourite photographer is F. Stop Fitzgerald.
Shappi challenge.
I don't think he did hesitate. I thought he had... F is a funny sort of letter, isn't it? You can sound like you're stammering when you say an F. And I think that's what happened, and I buzzed, and I'd like to retract it. Sorry.
Paul, you have another point. You have 40 seconds. Scott Fitzgerald, starting now.
The great American writer of the 20s. Tender is the night, the great Gatsby.
Kit challenge.
Repetition of great.
Yes, the great writer. Yes, the great Gatsby.
Right.
He came in the title and in the name. Right,
Yeah.
35 seconds with you, Kit. Scott Fitzgerald, starting now.
He married the beautiful Zelda Sayre, a daughter of a judge in Alabama who quickly took to drink and drugs, as did he. He was a pretty boy of the jazz age. She, in her cups, accused him of having an affair with Ernest Hemingway, which takes a lot of swallowing, I must...
Go on, Shappi. Shappi, you challenged.
I did.
Hesitation, wasn't it?
Yes, I thought it was hesitation, and also, I would happily have had an affair with Hemingway. You know, and I felt, yeah, I would.
I think you'd have enjoyed Scott Fitzgerald more, darling.
Do you think?
Well, Shappi, I'm glad you were listening so sharply there. And you have 19 seconds. Tell us something about Scott Fitzgerald, starting now.
Scott Fitzgerald is the name.
There was a little bit of a hesitation,
Do you know,
but I'm prepared to let it go.
I don't know why I find saying, I've had this all my life, I find saying Fitzgerald really difficult.
Is that
it's not just within this game.
Your other Iranian tongue?
No, it's just throughout my life. There's been, it's Fitzgerald and the word porn. Or prawn, I find really... I have a mental block. I just realised that this is part of my emotional baggage that I brought to you.
Would you like to come home with me and watch some prawn?
Is it king-size prawn?
Right.
Let's not go that far.
Right, the benefit of the doubt to you, and you carry on. And, and don't even use...
Don't start with it.
Don't start with it.
I went.
Go off with something else. This amazing American writer. Right, and there are 18 seconds starting now.
This amazing American...
Deviation.
Why?
She didn't start with Scott Fitzgerald.
Give Paul a bonus point, and you've still got the subject. And another point to Shappi. 16 seconds, Scott Fitzgerald starting now.
Scott Fitzgerald is not to be confused with Scott Baio, who was playing a character called Chachi in Joni Loves Chachi, and was also...
Oh, unfortunately, it was a repetition of Chachi. Which I know is one of those words that pops up in everyday conversation. all the time, but it was.
There was a bit too much chachi there, I'm afraid, yes. So, Paul, you have another point, a correct challenge, 8 seconds. Scott Fitzgerald starting now.
Robert Redford starred in the film, and he was pretty good, I thought. Mia Farrow played Daisy, and she...
Paul Merton, with points in the round and one for speakers. The whistle went as moved forward. He's now taken the lead just ahead of Kit Hesketh-Harvey, and then it's Shappi Khorsandi in third place and Gyles in fourth place. And Shappi, it's your turn to begin.
OK.
The subject is family get-togethers, and there's no Fitzgerald in that.
No.
And you have 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
Family get-togethers always begin so well. You think, oh, whoopee, I'm going to see my mum. As any lady in the audience will know, mums always give their daughters that beautiful, unique gift of low self-esteem. At our family get-togethers, my mother likes to say to me, oh, Shappi...
Gyles challenge.
I think we've had a repetition of mother. We've had mother twice and
no,
mothers
we
once.
had mum and mums, and now it's mother.
Yeah.
OK.
Right?
That's
So
quite
it's
right.
an incorrect challenge.
I missed a bit because obviously I popped out for a tea during the It's catching up. It's a lovely show, though. You can slow down.
Another point to you, Shappi, and 43 seconds on family get-togethers, starting now.
The woman who gave birth to me at family get-togethers likes to say to me...
I'd like you to expand a little bit on that.
Yeah, I just
Did you
realised...
actually give birth to at a family get-together? What a marvellous idea. Is this a sort of Iranian tradition? How lovely. Just tell us more.
Giles, you're hectoring her now.
No,
and
I'm not.
interrupting her.
I'm not hectoring her.
All that
I really
happens
am
is she
not.
gets another incorrect challenge, another point.
Of course, I like
moving
that.
forward.
All that I wanted.
She's overtaking you in leaps and bounds.
I know, I'm planning to lose.
Giles, has my self-esteem not been shattered enough by my own mother that you sit next to me now and criticise everything I say?
Listen, Shappi,
Yeah.
I haven't said style. Don't go, because you've just repeated yourself. Listen, there are 38 seconds, family get-togethers, starting now.
At family get-togethers...
Kit challenge.
That was a yawning one, wasn't
Yes,
it?
it was a...
Do I hesitate, do I, before I
Before I
start?
speak, yes,
Yeah, I didn't
You're
know that
leaving a
about...
mental blank for the word Fitzgerald, which takes at least 3 seconds.
You see, that I didn't realise I do that. That's obviously something
No,
I need to work on.
you've done it a bit, but you did it in a major way that time.
Yeah.
Face it, you are playing with people who are not gentlemen.
So can I... Hello? So was that... Hello?
No.
I'm just going to try and practice speaking.
When he says the time starts now, that's when you start.
I just start speaking.
And I always deliberately say, and the time starts now.
And then
you
that's-
go straight in, you see.
Okay.
On now.
But everybody knows it's going to come up like that. So you've got your breath in, and then you come out with now.
You know when you're recording your message on your mobile phone for people to listen to, do you get that where it goes, we have to record after the beep, and it goes beep, and you go, hello, this is Shappi. You might not say Shappi, but it's a bit like that. I always notice I go, before I do my message.
Well, I'd try and get out of the habit for just a minute,
For
darling.
just a minute.
So, Kit, you have a correct challenge. 36 seconds. Family get-togethers starting now.
At Hesketh Towers on Walpurgisnacht, we assemble. It's the night when all the spirits of hell are let loose.
Shappi challenge.
It was a hesitation,
That was.
and also I'm dying to do that speaking thing without hesitation.
OK, no, you're up and at it, girl. Go on, and with my blessing.
The audience are watching with bated breath. You've got the system, have you now?
Yes,
I
I
say,
do.
and the times, and that's you, and you breathe in.
OK.
And wait a minute, I haven't said it yet. You have 30 seconds, Shappi. Family get-togethers, and the time starts now.
My dad likes to get us drunk at family get-togethers, and we drink wine, and I get very drunk. You see, I just...
There was a curious moment there when the audience hugely cheered when you said your dad likes to get drunk, and everybody went, yes!
And then, bless, the lovely audience applauded, and then I panicked and I repeated.
Yes.
I repeated drink and drunk, but we did drink a lot.
Darling, don't go on. It's Giles.
Yes.
Let's get on with the game this now.
Sorry, Giles.
Giles, you challenged.
Yes, indeed, repetition.
Yes, you did, right. 23 seconds on... Oh, is it? Yes. 23 seconds on family get-togethers starting now.
After a good meal, one can forgive anyone, even family, said Oscar Wilde. These family get-togethers are fraught with danger. As a child, I remember them well because of the presence of Auntie Gladys. Not a real aunt, a friend of the family, rather too close to my father, I recall. But that is actually more a matter of family tragedy than get-together. It was the cause of the divorce, the breakdown, the eventual...
Let me tell you what the situation is as we move into the final round. Paul Merton is just in the lead, 2 points ahead of Kit Hesketh-Harvey. Then comes Shappi in a strong third position, just behind Kit, and she's a couple of points ahead of Gyles Brandreth. Paul, we're back with you to start. Okay. The subject is an interesting one, what I make lists about. Or if you want to speak correctly, about what I make lists. And you have 60 seconds starting now.
I make lists about the things that Sir Clement Freud made lists about. For example, cheese, Edam, Brie, Gouda, Limeswold, served in many different countries like Germany, Austria, Australia, Sweden, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, France, Greece, Ireland, the Republic of Somalia, Poland, Johannesburg, Scotland.
Kit has challenged.
Johannesburg isn't a country.
Is it not?
No. Bless him. Bless the great.
You better cross it off your list.
Something had to.
Right. You're quite right. It's not a country. It's a town, a city. Yeah. 35 seconds with you, Kit, now on what I make lists about, starting now.
As a musician, I'm heavily influenced by Franz Liszt. Just one whiff of a campfire and I get out my fiddle and thrash a quick Shah dash at my audience or plop myself down beside the Bechstein and toss off a fantasy impromptu as soon as anyone.
Well, he was talking about tossing off a fantasy. Then he looked at you and his eyes glazed over. And it was hesitation.
Yes, it was.
I could feel the gypsy in me.
I think he was somewhat inhibited by the way you were looking at him, Paul. You were sitting close beside him. But it was a correct challenge. 18 seconds, Paul. What I make lists about, starting now.
It's important when you go shopping to make a list so you know exactly what you're going to buy. For example, eggs, bread, milk, Johannesburg. Johannesburg.
So, Giles, you challenge first.
Yes, there was a hesitation.
There was a hesitation, yes. Don't say it with such surprise.
Well, no, I'm just trying to, make up for clearly some misdemeanour on my part.
There's been no
deep in therapy in this edition, isn't he?
Yes. Well, you have 8 seconds and a correct challenge.
Good.
Tell you what I make lists about, starting now.
I make lists about my hopes and dreams, my aspirations, and one of the greatest of them is to come last in just a minute and do so and make people like me.
Well, as I said, that was to be the last round, and Giles, honestly, his modesty is overwhelming, but he did actually finish last, but no, he finished in third place alongside Shappi Khorsandi. They're both in a very strong third place. They were just a few points behind Kit Hesketh-Harvey, and he was only 2 points behind the man who's out in the lead, Paul Merton. So we say, Paul, this week, you are our winner. It only remains for me to say thank you to these 4 delightful players of the game, Paul Merton, Kit Hesketh-Harvey, Gyles Brandreth and Shappi Khorsandi. I think Sarah Sharp, who's helped me with the score, blown a whistle most elegantly. We're grateful to our producer, Claire Jones. We're deeply indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. We're grateful to this lovely, warm, responsive audience here in the Radio Theatre, who've cheered us on our way with charm and eclat. And so from our lovely audience and from our lovely panel and from me, Nicholas Parsons, tune in the next time we play Just a Minute! Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners in this country and around the world, but also to welcome to the programme this week 4 exciting, talented and humorous individuals who are going to play Just a Minute. And they are, seated on my right, Paul Merton, and beside him, Mike McShane, seated on my left, Paul Sinner, and at the other end, Sue Perkins. Will you please welcome all 4 of them? And as usual, I'm going to ask them to speak on a subject that I will give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. Beside me sits Sarah Sharp, who's going to help me with the score. She'll blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the Pleasance Grand at the Edinburgh Festival Fringe. And we have a very hyped-up, excited Festival Fringe audience here, ready to get us going. So let us start the show with Paul Merton. Paul, oh, that's an interesting subject. For starters, what I wear in bed. Can you tell us something about that subject in this game starting now?
Nothing.
And Sue, you challenged immediately.
It was beautiful, and then there was a hesitation.
Well, he got his laugh, and he thought, well, I'll retire on that.
He savoured it.
You've got a correct challenge. You get a point for that. And you've got 58 seconds. You tell us now on what I wear in bed starting now.
Hessian pyjamas, which are bracing and also provide a natural exfoliant when one is trying to slough skin off one's back. I have repeated, however, the word one, but in its plural sense, so thankfully no one could buzz in.
Paul, you challenge.
Was it repetition of Hessian? Is it not Hessian?
No, there wasn't Hessian.
Wasn't there?
There was one, but nobody picked it up.
Oh.
It's too late now.
Is it?
So it's an incorrect challenge.
Oh.
So, Sue, you have another incorrect challenge. And you have 42 seconds starting now. What I wear in bed.
Wire wool plus fours are also excellent if you wish to take some of the excess layers off when kipping. Usually when I hit REM...
Paul Sinner has challenged.
That sounded suspiciously like a hesitation.
No, darling boy, it wasn't. She did hesitate before, but you missed it. No, I think it was too infinitesimal to be called within the rules of Just a Minute. I know it's the first time, and I'd love to lean over backwards and bring you in, but I think... Well, up at the Festival Fringe, they pick up every innuendo possible, right? So, Paul, I'm sorry, I can't give it to you.
So, is not a hesitation.
Well, there wasn't a definite So, I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to Sue. Benefit of the doubt. The benefit of the doubt to Sue, and she has still 35 seconds starting now.
A gorse waistcoat. Hard to get, but if you look round heathery moorland, you might find some with the suitable bite to give you a really restful...
Right. So, Paul Sinner...
Well,
that was a definite hesitation.
Shall we go for hesitation then? Yes.
No, we don't go for hesitation. You've got hesitation. Don't go for anything else. It wouldn't work. So, 27 seconds. What I wear in bed starting now.
I have been... I thought I'd let somebody in.
What's happened then?
I hadn't buzzed for the last one. You gave it to me anyway, so I thought I'd let somebody else in. I was just being sporty.
No, Sue, you challenged. Why?
There was hesitation. There was an
Oh,
I know
yes,
it's is human,
with an
but
yes.
it's not.
It's your first time, I know, Paul, so it is difficult. But there we are. I'm afraid Sue's got in again. With 26 seconds, what I wear in bed, Sue, starting now.
I like to wear a nice sailor suit or a pirate's outfit, which is strange, but I find that eye patch really consoles me, especially on long sleepless flights. People on Virgin Atlantic recently commented on my piratical eyewear and were frightened, possibly because it is a secure environment and no one wants someone running with a cutlass through what essentially was an economy cabin. That's a long story that I can't obviously say now.
Was there an there?
There was an earlier on.
Yes.
But it was an actual actually earlier on.
Was there?
Yes. So I'll give it to you because there was a hesitation.
Okay.
Oh, gosh, you've got him with 3 seconds to go, Paul.
I share your sadness.
3 seconds, Paul, on what I wear in bed starting now.
Given the choice, I will put perfume behind.
Well, at the end of the first round, you won't be surprised to hear that Sue Perkins has got quite a lot of points because she was always being interrupted. Paul Merton's got 2. Paul Sinner's got 1. Mike has yet to score, but Mike, we want you to begin the next round. And the subject, I don't know if this is your scene or anything, but it's an interesting subject, hugging trees. Can you tell us something about hugging trees in just a minute, starting now?
I've been called many things in my life, an angry liberal, a big hippie, but I am, most of all, a tree hugger. I didn't believe it myself when I was younger, but recently my wife had found a photo of of a young Mike McShane.
Sue challenged.
Slight hesitation.
That was a hesitation, yes. I'm sorry, Mike. So Sue's in again on the hesitation trail. 45 seconds with you, Sue, hugging trees.
By all means, hug a tree. Don't expect anything in return. They're not givers in relationships. They just stand there all barky and just do nothing. I've hugged long and hard and fast and ash, birch, lime, anything you can think of. But nothing comes back. And I've said that already, but no one's going to ever stop me. I'm going to have to do it again and again.
Yes, that's right. And you have, Paul, 30 seconds on hugging trees starting now.
It's the 40th anniversary of the Woodstock Pop Festival, and it's seen by many people as one of the great moments in the history of the hippie. Tree hugging was evident there in great force. You would see people wandering towards a mighty oak and think to themselves, I'm gonna put my arms around that tree and feel its essential woodiness flowing into my veins. We will become one with the universe. Or is that the time? And then I would walk through parks and I saw members of the
So Paul Merton was then speaking as a whistle when gained the extra point. He's creeping up on our leader, Sue Perkins. And Paul Sinner, we'd like you to begin the next round. The subject is quiz shows. I don't know whether this is something that you're interested in or not, but will you please talk about the subject in this game, starting now?
More than interested, I'm obsessed with quiz shows ever since the age of 8, when I first heard the words coming out of my TV screen, live from Norwich. It's the quiz of the week. It wasn't just the magical theme tune or the wonderful contestants, it was the presenter, whose name I forget. What a charismatic dandy he was, with all the alpha male authority of Larry Grayson on The Generation. It was something quite to behold. And Sale of the Century, what a title.
Yeah, it was natural to go back to it, wasn't it?
It was a wonderful show.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Paul, you challenged first.
Hesitation.
Hesitate. Oh, no. Oh, yes, he hesitated after he repeated himself.
Yes.
Oh, well, this... Well, listen, Paul. 29 seconds, quiz shows starting now.
They are fun to watch. They're not much joy to host. I did that once for a TV pilot of a quiz show, and I didn't enjoy it that much. I've said enjoy, haven't I? But what I really liked...
Sue, challenge.
Repetition of enjoy.
Yes, that's right. Yes. 20 seconds are available, Sue. You tell us something about quiz shows starting now.
I like Mastermind. It's basic. It says, I'll ask you stuff, you won't know it, you'll feel an idiot. And that's what a quiz show is, the basest form of human torture. Even the theme tune, which is called Advancing Menace, was originally developed by the Germans in the 1930s as part of their torture/interrogation techniques when they forced people to listen.
So Sue Perkins was then speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point and has slightly increased her lead at the end of that round over Paul Merton and Paul Sinner and Mike McShane in that order. Sue, it's your turn to begin, and the subject now is ghost writers. Tell us something about those creatures or those people in this game starting now.
If you're going to choose a ghost to write a book for you, make sure it's not a headless one, as they're rubbish with word processing. I did it to my cost, and to be honest, they can type like Billio, but get them to return back to you what they've printed and they can't see it. So useless. Jacob Marley was a great ghostwriter, as was Anne Boleyn, who I believe Jordan used to scribe her latest novel. It's too florid,
Mike,
she says.
Challenge.
I didn't. Did
well,
I?
Your light came on.
I guess I thumbed it.
You thumbed it, yeah. You got twitchy.
It was a ghost challenge.
All right, Mike. Well, we'll give you a bonus point because we enjoyed what you said. But Sue was interrupted, so she gets a point for that. And she still has ghostwriters. And there are 38 seconds starting now.
It's a sad state of publishing where people like Kerry Katona can't even get out of bed to write the story of the last 3 years of their life. As if that's an interesting read. I think we can boil it down to a few well-known narcotics and a bottle of Thunderbird. However, she chooses to get people who she has no connection with, anonymous figures in the literary underworld, to put pen to paper on her behalf, possibly coming round to see her semi-dressed in a boudoir.
Mike challenge.
Repetition, her, within the sentence?
Yes, there were more than one her there.
But close enough together.
Oh. I mean, we might let one or two go, but there were three there.
I'm all about the hers, so yeah.
So, Mike, a correct challenge. It's ghostwriters, and you have 14 seconds starting now.
Many people have found that ghostwriting is a way to make profitable living in Hollywood when they're not doing script writing. I have a friend of mine who ghostwrites for a number of people, but he does...
Paul Sinner challenge.
A bit harsh, but I thought there was a hesitation there.
No, there definitely wasn't a hesitation. I mean, I'd love to bring you in because it's your first time, but no, it's... Mike hasn't played the game very much either, but it's 3 seconds, Mike. So keep going for 3 seconds on ghostwriters starting now.
Which makes ghostwriting an incredibly...
Mike McShane was speaking as a whistle. Wayne gained the extra point. He's now in third place behind Paul Merton and then a little bit more behind Sue Perkins. Paul Sinner's trailing a little. And Paul, we're back with you to begin. And the subject is, oh, this is good, a Scottish delicacy. 60 seconds on that subject up here in Scotland, starting now.
Near where I'm staying here in Edinburgh is a beautiful shop that sells the most delightful sausages. I won't mention it by name, as that would be advertising on the British Broadcasting Corporation, but the sausage they sell there is absolutely fantastic. The secret is they use real meat, and it is absolutely wonderful. The other delicacy I think of as well is the malt whisky. There are many varieties of that particular alcoholic drink, many of them very popular.
Sue challenge.
Repetition of many?
Yes, there were too many many's. Right. Well, listen, Sue, you're in there with 37 seconds on a Scottish delicacy starting now.
The deep-fried Mars bar is a thing of calorific beauty. Imagine fishy batter, then coated around one of your favourite pieces of confectionery. I'm getting herring and chocolate. Delicious. What's that you say? Only 40,000 times my daily recommended dose of saturated fat? I'll have another and batter a pizza. I'm feeling hungry. Walking along...
Paul's challenge.
That was a hesitation.
That was a hesitation. She goes so fast that her hesitations are actually more pronounced because she was running out of breath, poor darling.
Yes.
But anyway, no, you've got in there, Paul. Definite hesitation. 17 seconds. Tell us something about a Scottish delicacy starting now.
A Scottish delicacy is one of the many euphemisms used worldwide for that most Moorish of Scottish delicacies, heroin. There is...
Sue Chan, you haven't won any friends in this audience with what you have said there.
Well, yeah, I mean, hesitation. And also, first person to mention heroin on Radio 4, so well done. Been a long-kept secret here, but...
Right. Sue, you've got him 7 seconds to go. A Scottish delicacy starting now.
Scotch eggs, so good they named them once. There it is, sausage meat wrapped around a perfectly formed egg. Again...
So Sue Perkins was again speaking as a whistle when gained the extra point, has slightly increased her lead. And we're back with you, Mike. Would you start the next round? The subject is dragons. You had hugging trees before. We got some weird subjects for you. Dragons. 60 seconds starting now.
As a child...
Mike, Paul.
It was a bit of a hesitation.
A long hesitation.
Oh.
As soon as I say... No, I'm going to be generous. And Paul's a very generous player of the game. I'm sure Paul will let him have this one. But let me say to you, Paul, I always
When you say now,
yeah, as I take a breath, start to go, and then I say, now, and then go. Take the breath as my finger goes up, and then on the now, go. For our listeners, I should explain, Mike has now got up, standing ready to deliver things from a standing position. Sit down if you wish, it's better for the microphone. Paul, you're very generous to let it go because Mike hasn't played it so often. So the benefit of the doubt to you, no, not an incorrect challenge because you didn't start, did you? So you have 58.5 seconds. 1.5 seconds of breath you took then.
Yeah. It's the atmosphere.
Right, no, it isn't. It's your natural delivery. So try to ignore it and go in a different route. So are you ready, Mike? 58.5 seconds. The subject is dragons, and you start now.
In mythology, I was
Deviation.
Why?
He didn't hesitate. didn't hesitate.
Now, give Paul Merton a bonus point for what he said. It was delightful. But, Mike, we won't penalise you. We'll let you keep the subject. And you've got 57 seconds now. Dragons, starting now.
Many stories were told using dragons in mythology. One of my favourite tales is The Never-Ending Story, which was an original...
Paulson, a challenge.
That's two uses of the word story.
Story, repetition of story, yes. So, Paul, you're in on dragons with 49 seconds, starting now.
Dragons are known by scientists as a Lazarus taxon, in that they used to be extinct, but they now exist. The fire-breathing creatures that were wiped out by a comet many years ago have been now replaced... I know.
Sue Chan.
Repetition of now.
Yes, right, Sue. 37 seconds, Sue, on dragons, starting now.
The mission statement of dragons is simple. Breathe fire, get slain. That's all they do. You need to go on a quest and find one. Spear it through the head, face, eye, neck, however it appears to you. And Bob's your uncle. You return home to a village, possibly wearing its face as some kind of gaudy trophy.
Paul, challenge.
Repetition of face.
Yes, indeed there was. So, Paul, you've got in with 21 seconds on dragons, starting now.
As has been said by other members of the panel, the dragon is very much a mythical creature, and one will search for it in vain because it no longer walks the earth, indeed, if it ever did. I remember as a child my mother saying to me, "Beware of the dragons that live in North London. It is a horrible place full of grotesque ogres."
So Paul Merton was there. There was Paul Merton speaking, by the way.
Yeah,
I don't know if you thought it was somebody else.
That was the best Alec Guinness on Rohypnol I have ever heard.
That's right, yes. It's one of his better impersonations, Alec Guinness, right. So Alec Guinness gets the point. Oh, no, Paul Merton gets the point for speaking as the whistle went. He's now still in second place behind Sue Perkins, and then it's Mike McShane and Paul Sinner in that order. Paul Sinner, will you begin the next round? Oh, I know why this has been chosen for you. How to talk to your GP. Will you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
It should be pointed out that the only reason I'm here is in case Nicholas Parsons has an accident and a qualified GP is on hand. How to talk to your GP is a government information package, basically produced so that the people can stop doctors...
Oh, Sue, challenge.
Hesitation.
Hesitation. I mean, perhaps some of the listeners don't know, but Paul Sinner, when he's not working up here at the festival, he's also a qualified doctor and used to have his own practice. Indeed. And that's why you made that remark. It didn't get quite such a big reaction as it deserved, because if they'd known that you were a GP once, I don't know why I don't think I'll pursue that any further. Sue, you had a correct challenge, so you have the subject. You have 46 seconds. How to talk to your GP, starting now.
I like to talk to my GP in Mexican while sneezing, and I find I get an immediate response. Suddenly, a disinterested man is...
Oh, Paul, you challenged.
There was a big laugh hesitation there.
Yes.
Well, OK.
So, Paul, you got in again with 40 seconds on how to talk to your GP, starting now.
How to talk to your GP is a government information.
Paul, challenge.
We had government before.
You did have government before,
sorry.
yes.
It's my first show. I didn't realise the rules.
Yes. When you get the subject back, you can't repeat what you said previously. It's very difficult, isn't it? I know, but don't worry. Make a little note of it.
I know that to my cost with the what I wear in bed round.
So, Paul Merton, you have 38 seconds. How to talk to your GP, starting now.
Most doctors are very thick. They'd admit it themselves if you weren't looking. So the best way to talk to them is to shout at them very loudly in a very aggressive voice.
Sue, challenge.
Very. Repetition of very.
Yes, very loudly. Yes. Two verys. Yes.
Now who's stupid?
Sorry, did you take my general condemnation of all GPs as a personal insult towards yourself?
Well, yes, but I did agree with you, to be fair.
No, they're a mixed bunch, aren't they, GPs?
Yeah,
right. 31 seconds. Sue, you challenged, wasn't it? How to talk to your GP, starting now.
Paracetamol is the answer to any question presented to a GP involving a medical condition. It doesn't...
Paul, challenge.
Deviation, it's not true. Ibuprofen as well.
Specialised knowledge gets you the point, right?
Can I just say, my GP's in West Cornwall and they haven't heard of ibuprofen. As far as they're concerned, it's the devil's work. And so
well said, Sue. Lovely, right. Paul Sinner, you've got the subject, and you've got 25 seconds. How to talk to your GP starting now.
The problem is GPs are leaving the profession to go into showbiz. Look at Doctor who left his job as a practitioner on the planet Gallifrey as soon as Russell T Davies waved his chequebook at him. So we need to stop GPs leaving the profession. The problem...
Sue, challenge.
Leaving. Repetition of leaving.
Oh, yes, you would have too much leaving there. Right, so, Sue, you listen like a lynx, and you've got I don't know why, it was just a word that came out, listening and links. And
they're well known for their listening, the links.
I don't think it was worthy of the laugh you gave me, but I'm most grateful. Anyway, how to talk to your GP, Sue, 12 seconds, starting now.
Through a foghorn is excellent. They find it odd if you turn up and usually prescribe antidepressant medication or a long stay at the Priory, which is what happened to me. Suddenly I found myself in a very tight waistcoat with buckles round the back, rocking to myself and pretending...
Right, so Sue was again speaking of the whistle wind, has increased her lead over Paul Merton, Paul Sinner and Mike McShane in that order. And there's a lovely little joke about this fellow who goes to the doctor, is how GPs talk to them. And he says, I'm sorry, I have to tell you, you're obese. He said, how dare you? I want a second opinion. He said, well, you're also fat. No, I'm sorry, I'll tell the joke again. I've never told the joke before, it suddenly came to me. So he went to the doctor, and the doctor said, I've got to inform you, you are obese.
Yes.
And he said, that's disgraceful, I want a second opinion.
Yes.
He said, you're also ugly. So that's two versions, and you appreciated both of them. Sue, we're back with you to begin. The subject is texting, and there are 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
Texting is the scourge of people who have fat fingers. Look at them with their porky digits, stumbling over useless words they may need to communicate to kith and kin. I don't like texting much simply because I'm old, and just as you'd slice a tree in half and see how many rings it has, so you can tell how aged somebody is by the speed at which they send messages. SMS text. How I loathe it, especially when one reduces the...
Paul, challenge.
Repetition of S.
That's right, SMS. That was correct. I mean, you repeated S.
Yes,
and that's within the rules of the game. So, Paul, well done. 37 seconds on texting starting now.
One of the first important rules they teach you at school about reading the English language is being devoted to the text. Look at the undertow, the subgenres within a piece of mighty prose writing, and soon you realise that the words that come towards you off the page and into your brain create a marvellous world where you can sometimes escape if you're living a rather boring life somewhere. You can look at the books of P.G. Wodehouse, and that whole area has been completely put in front of you. Country houses, funny butlers, dim aristocrats. It's just like the House of Commons. And
So Paul took the subject with great style and aplomb, went right up to when the whistle blew and gained that extra point for doing so, and gained great value in the process. And he's still trailing Sue Perkins a little, and Paul Sinner and Mike McShane are equal in third place. You couldn't really care less, but I thought I'd give you the situation. And we're moving into the final round. Oh, you are lovely. Paul Merton, we're back with you to begin, and the subject is the worst night of my life. Will you tell us something about that in this game, starting now?
Undoubtedly, the worst night of my life was here at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival in 1987. I went out and played football with a bunch of comedians on the meadows, fell over, broke my leg, was taken to the hospital, where 2 or 3 days later I developed a blood clot in the lung. I also attached myself to the disease hepatitis A, which was great fun. So as I lay in that particular place...
Sue, challenge.
It's like hesitation.
That was hesitation. He's trying to pick another word for hospital, and it didn't come up. And so you've got him with 38 seconds, Sue, on the worst night of my life, starting now.
The worst night of my life was last night, as I listened to seagulls raiding a biffa bin outside my hotel.
They happen to be a great band. The first album was fantastic.
Yes. I'm afraid, Paul, I've never heard of the Seagulls.
Oh, well, that's it then, isn't it?
No, but we enjoyed your interruption. Give him a bonus point for that. Sue was interrupted, so she gets a point and continues with, for 34 seconds, the worst night of my life starting now.
Equally, it was watching Cliff Richard play the part of Heathcliff in the aforementioned musical. I had imagined on reading Wuthering Heights a brutish, wolfish man who comes across this young ingenue and taunts her and taints her, thus realising the potency of romantic love. With Cliff, however, whose name I have mentioned twice...
Paul Chant.
Reputation of Cliff.
Yeah, we had too much of Cliff there.
You can never have too much of Cliff.
That was a lovely cue for you, wasn't it, Sue? Right, you took it up and ran with it. But, Paul, you had a correct challenge. 18 seconds, the worst night of my life, starting now.
And I gave a blood test and they found that my Cliff Richard levels were impossibly high. More than any individual could stand apart from the great singer himself. So, as I look around this audience now, I think about the worst night of my life and I realise that is past. It is gone. Now, it is a different...
Well, let me give you the final score then. Mike McShane, who hasn't played the game, only played once before, did very well. He didn't get started very quickly on occasion, so slipped up there. He finished in quite a strong fourth place. But in this show, it's the contribution, it's not the points. Paul Sinner, who's never played the game before, finished up in a very strong third place, quite a lot of points. Paul Merton, who's played the game a lot, finished up in an excellent second place. And Sue Perkins, who's played the game many times as well, has got a record number of points. And so today we say, Sue, you are our winner. So it only remains me to say thank you to these four delightful players of the game, Paul Merton, Mike McShane, Paul Sinner and Sue Perkins. I also thank Sarah Sharp, who's kept the score so magnificently, blown her whistle with great aplomb. We thank our audience here. We thank our producer, Claire Jones. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this game, and we are deeply indebted to this audience here, who cheered us on our way. We hope you've enjoyed it. We hope the listeners have enjoyed it, and we hope you'll all tune in again the next time we play Just a Minute. Yes.
Next week, same venue, Edinburgh, same year, 2009, but a slight tweak of the cast. Paul Merton and Sue Perkins will be joined by Janie Godley and Richard Herring.